Hey guys, how are all of you beautiful people? Hope all of you are doing great. And yes, this is the second season of creating Naruto comics in Naruto World. You can check out the first season of this amazing story in my channel and playlist. Akaban was graduated from the University of Arts and Design in the 21st century, then suddenly traversed into the Naruto's world. By bringing my knowledge of arts and my love of Naruto comic, I decided to recreate Naruto comic here. So let's start without any delay. Did Haku die? According to the plot, it is indeed true. It's too hard for Zabuza. Everyone has seen the comic plot and knows that although Zabuza seems ruthless, it's only on his enemies, not his ally, especially Haku. His feelings for Haku are very deep. This kind of emotion has a greater impact and shock on the interpretation of real people. It's wonderful. I really didn't expect that ninjas could even do this kind of thing. The daimyo said with a sigh. Although daimyo is aging and physically weak, that he will need to rest every second, but judging from his expression, he is undoubtedly very satisfied with this comic show. While he sat down and rested, Kakashi had already scrapped Zabuza's hands without cutting them. At this time, the Land of Waves' first local tyrant Goto arrived with his subordinates clearly not there for the talk. They blocked Zabuza's retreat and walked step by step towards Zabuza's direction. With Zabuza's strength greatly reduced due to his arms and injury, they didn't fear him anymore. Speaking of which, I still have grudges with this kid. It's dead. Goto said while stepping on Haku's head with disdain. In an instant. Asshole, what is this guy going to do to Lady Mito? Can't forgive him, who played Goto. Be sure to figure it out. All the people in the stands cursed out when they saw how Goto treat Haku/Mito. They were all staring dagger at Goto, trying to pierce his body with holes from their gazes alone. Akaban, who was at Mito's side, has seen a lot of this phenomenon. In his previous life, many good actors played the big villain to life, and then they were blown up in reality. This wave is the same. Murasaki, who played Goto, suddenly froze when he heard the audience's words. However, he has no choice but to brace himself and continue speaking. Then there is Zabuza's tool theory, and the plot is carried out methodically according to the comics. Everyone became an actor for the first time, but they played it pretty well. Until the end, Zabuza finally shed tears. He bit his kunai and rushed into the crowd. A sword pierced his body, but he didn't flinch, and still went forward fiercely. Goto and his subordinate were shocked. At the same time, the audience in the stands was also shocked. Reading it in the comic and actually watching the scene are really two completely different feelings. They originally felt angry and disgusted with Zabuza. But at this time, everything is gone. Kill, keep killing. In the end, a piece of snow fell. Everyone seems to see Haku appearing in front of Zabuza, pure as snow, indescribably beautiful. Please keep me with you. A sweet voice sounded. Zabuza jolted step by step, heading for the image. I want to say, farewell, Haku, I'm really sorry for walking you along my way. After he finished his words, Zabuza collapsed, lying on the white snow as a corpse. At this moment, a singing sounded. Flying_Bluebird. The program below is not over yet, and the singing is already playing. Above Zabuza and Haku's corpse, the phantoms of the two smiled at each other, then turned into two flying birds and headed for the sky. Every scene is as beautiful as a song. No one spoke. Princess Erika, she was dumbfounded and also burst into tears. Including Tsunade, there was a sudden burst of sorrow in her heart watching the scene. Ninja are all tools. Perhaps, but at this moment, Zabuza and Haku are both now bluebirds, and they are finally free. The plot was not yet published, but no one felt it was abrupt, but was even more moved by the bluebirds flying away. At the same time, Uzumaki Maito's silhouette appeared in the air. She was like a nightingale, spitting out graceful songs. In her foot, there is a rope tied to a big tree and a mountain wall in the distance. It's so beautiful. The third Hokage knows that there are Ikeban hypnosis and genjutsu effects in the scene, but he still can't help being moved by this beautiful and moving picture. A few minutes later, the song came to an end as the silhouette slowly stepped into the sky, disappearing from everyone's sight. However, after a long time, the mountain forest remained silent. Except for the sounds of birds and insects, there is only a soft sob. Ikeban, this guy, go back and must teach him a lesson. It's very good. Grandma, those two birds, are they Zabuza and Haku? They are still alive, right? After a long time, somebody gradually spoke. Everyone was affected by the plot, and their emotions were very sad and low. Grandfather, Zabuza, and Haku are so touching. Erika said while still crying in tears. She was born and grew up in Daimyo's house. She knows very little about the outside world and cannot resist this tearful plot. It is indeed a touching story. The Daimyo sighed slightly, but that was all. As Daimyo, he has seen too many realities that are crueler than this, but this plot has become more poignant, that's all, under the various backgrounds and arrangements of Ikeban. Even Tsunade was immersed in the picture just now, unable to extricate herself for a long time. But then, she became even more angry, wishing to beat Ikeban fiercely. Since Haku's death was painted by him. There are many people who know Ikeban like her, but unfortunately, it is still time for the comic exhibition and no one can do anything to him. A few minutes later, Ikeban's voice rang again. The first and second programs are over, and the next one is the last one. Please everyone, be mentally prepared. The third program is the virtual games. Of course, no one knows what it means. Prepare. What is it? It's my first time hearing the words virtual. What is it? Ha! Many people are still immersed in grief from the death of the two, but someone tells them now that the next show is about to begin. It's too late to recall. But what exactly is the next show? Everyone lamented in their hearts, but they were still, even more, looking forward to it. The third program was already very satisfying for them because those shows alone are already worth a visit, so for the finale, they are even more excited. In the next second. Virtual game, start. Ikeban is in front of a magnificent and exquisite painting. The moment his genjutsu is released, everyone is drawn into the huge illusory domain. Bringing all the people in the stands into his genjutsu is not impossible for him, but not also easy without preparation. Even though most of them are ordinary people and there is no resistance from them, the spiritual energy required is also very important. If Ikeban's spiritual energy reaches less than 80 points, it is simply impossible to do it with ease. The moment the illusory domain opened, everyone saw the scene change in front of them. The stands and mountains have disappeared. Grandfather, this is Hidden Leaf Village. Daimyo answered calmly. He looked at Erika, who was wearing ninja clothes and equipment. And also looked at his body again. And saw himself wearing a Hokage's robe and cloak. Grandfather, how did you become a Hokage? Erika was shocked and surprised. It should be illusory domain, a kind of playing a game. Daimyo answered calmly, the role played is a ninja. Looking around, he saw many ninjas with blank faces on their faces, clearly confused. Like them, these ninjas are all people who have been pulled into illusory domain. Welcome to the virtual game. The first wave of enemies will arrive at the battlefield in 3 minutes. Please buy equipment quickly and prepare for battle. A sudden voice suddenly echoed in everyone's ears. The first wave of enemies. Equipment. What is this? Everyone was at a loss and didn't understand what was going on. Rookie, don't freeze, come and buy ninjutsu and equipment, otherwise, when the enemy ninja comes, what will you use to resist? While they were confused, an indifferent voice suddenly was heard near them. The voice was clearly different from the first voice they heard. Looking at the source of the voice, they all saw a man with long white hair. This guy, why is it a lot like that stinky brat who draws disgusting comics? Erika was surprised when she saw the man and muttered. The difference with that kid is that this guy is older, and under his foot is a toad he was riding on, and he was holding a book called Icha Icha Paradise in his hand. Ninjutsu, do we buy the equipment from you? Daimyo asked after thinking for a moment. Yes, everyone's mission is to protect Konoha and the Hokage. Whether Hokage building or the Hokage is destroyed, the game will end immediately. The large Jiraiya coldly answered. Hearing it, the Daimyo came over to his side. While Jiraiya opens the Icha Icha Paradise to show the ninjutsu mentioned above. Can we really redeem it? The Daimyo thought suspiciously. He took a look and finally exchanged for a ninjutsu called Mud Wall. In an instant after redeeming it, he mastered the said jutsu while also learning how to use it, which started him. Try it. Jiraiya said lightly. The Daimyo nodded and yelled, Mud Wall. After that, both of his hands automatically made hand seals. Then a huge wall made of mud surrounded him. This is the defensive ninjutsu Mud Wall. Can really master ninjutsu. Erika jumps in joy seeing her grandpa using ninjutsu. They can master ninjutsu through redemption, which is very convenient. The rest of the people also got excited in an instant witnessing it. For these ordinary people, the experience of using a ninjutsu is simply a great joy for them. Really, a genius idea. Daimyo cancelled the ninjutsu, then he looked at his hand and muttered to himself. Before, he could not understand what kind of ability ninjutsu was, but after he used it, he realized how powerful this power is. Hateful, illusory domain games are not part of our deal. Tsunade saw Daimyo and other people fall into a coma, and immediately understood what the so-called virtual game was. So many people will cost him a lot of chakra, plus the Chunin. Do you want his life? The third Hokage and Uzumaki Mito stared at her like they were about to eat her whole, and Tsunade immediately shrank her head and dared not speak, seeing the two so angry at her. To put it plainly, she is just curious, what exactly is in the illusory domain? Akaban, where is your virtual game? Jiraiya releases his transformation jutsu. He thought he could go in too, but as of now, nothing has happened. Fool, this kind of genjutsu consumes a lot of chakras. Murasaki stood up, and his fist hit Jiraiya's head while talking. Jiraiya, how could I forget you? See for yourself, you are also inside the illusion. Akaban said, moving the painting over to let Jiraiya see. Jiraiya at first glance already saw himself. Sure enough, there is a tall, mighty silhouette inside, standing on the toad. It looks imposing. Way haha, this uncle is really amazing. Seeing his mighty self inside the painting, he was so happy, he didn't expect Akaban to really include him. Sakumo wanted to say something but was prevented by Murasaki, who was shaking his head. He was stunned for a moment, and then sighed, "What an idiot. Heh. You're just jealous of my mighty self. Ha ha, just let him be happy, Sakumo." Murasaki laughed, seeing how clueless Jiraiya was. Akaban slightly smiled and didn't bother with his friend bickering. He concentrated on controlling the direction of illusory domain. All the abilities in the illusory domain are given by him. In fact, as long as he wants, the daimyo can even instantly experience having a strength of a Kage level for himself. But that kind of game is just a boring game that is not needed at all. In illusory domain, everyone can only exchange skills once at the beginning. But each time you defend the wave of enemy attack, you can exchange one skill or equipment. In addition, if you kill the enemy, you will become stronger. Go and fight, rookies. Jiraiya is so arrogant that even the Hokage played by daimyo is not in his eye. The daimyo turned around after hearing the explanation of the game mechanics. As a leader of a country, even if he is not a ninja, he has basic leadership and command abilities. After thinking for a moment, he said, "I order half of you to exchange for ninjutsu, half for equipment, and then give the equipment to the ninja who has skills." As the leader, the daimyo's idea is simple. A bunch of trash does not have fighting strength, so they were not needed. But if they have skills, with the addition of ninjutsu and equipment, at least there will be enough fighting strength for his side. If this group of people is all ninjas, daimyo really can't command them. But since they were just ordinary people, their awe of daimyo makes them not object at all, even if they are chosen to give their equipment. This is equivalent to having an army of ninja of my own. Daimyo secretly said in his heart. He boarded the Hokage building and observed the condition of the village from the highest point. Then, everyone is divided into 4 teams and will guard the 4 directions of Konoha. Those people who have UN equip their equipment are responsible for cleaning up the enemy equipment. Daimyo continued to command. There are always nearly 400 people here. He let 200 people get ninjutsu, equipment, and enough power to defend against the enemy. I have to say that his choice has been relatively the best. Somewhat later, the enemy attacked. Under his command, more than 200 ninjas quickly solved the enemy and even took the initiative to expand outside the village. Outside the village, they found many wild monsters. But the daimyo did not at all pay attention to it, and ignored these natural resources directly, and asked everyone to come back for supplies after the first wave. This time, he still followed the previous method. Half equipment, half ninjutsu. Grandfather, it isn't very difficult at all. Erika said proudly. Thanks to the help of her gods, she got herself 2 ninjutsu and 1 kunai that made her kill several enemies. And according to the game ranking, she has already reached a genin level. As for the 200 equipped ninjas and also the people with ninjutsu, they also reach the genin level. No, it's not that simple. Daimyo shook his head hearing his beloved granddaughter. He touched his chin deeply, thinking. He felt that he had overlooked something, but he couldn't remember it for a moment. The second wave arrived. Fire style _ Great Fireball Jutsu. Lightning style _ Lightning Snakes Jutsu. Under one after another ninjutsu, the enemy was quickly solved. Only for less than 1 minute, all enemies are killed, but I don't have chakra anymore. I'm almost exhausted too. How to restore chakra? The second wave is over. But the first thing everyone did after coming back was not to exchange for equipment or ninjutsu like they always do. Instead, they directly asked the white-haired man sitting in the toad how to restore their chakra. Jiraiya smiled slightly hearing their idiotic question and said, "Tsk. A rookie is a rookie for sure. Of course, chakra needs rest for it to recover." "What? Chakra?" The daimyo was stunned. After a while, he finally understood what he had forgotten. To release ninjutsu, chakra is needed. Everyone takes the time to rest, and pay attention to the reasonable allocation of chakra during the battle. Without chakra, how can he play the third wave of the ninja enemy? He gradually panicked. After 1 minute, the third wave arrives. "Princess, the enemy suddenly becomes stronger. We cannot fall back or it will be finished." Up to now, Erika did not use all the ninjutsu on her arsenal, since most of the time she only uses her kunai to fight melee. But after their enemies became stronger, she didn't have any other choice but to use them all until her chakra hit 0. Even if their enemies are just low-level AI with Genin as a template, they still are much better than them in combat ability. Ninjutsu cannot be used at will. All the ninjas are fighting and running, retreating from the gate to the street. And after a few minutes, the battle finally ended. However, at a glance, it is obvious that there are fewer ninjas with fighting strength. Daimyo felt desperate. "Grandfather, we can't pass the next level," Daimyo said while sighing. "There is no chakra, facing the enemy. There is no ability to fight back. Fourth wave. Everyone fight for the last. Some ninja died, and there is no ninjutsu reserve to use. At this moment, everyone is participating in the battle, and there is no longer a ninja or an ordinary person." The battle was fierce. Erika survived with difficulty, but her soul was greatly impacted. Even if there is no pain and even made the flesh and blood harmonize into black and white, but the fear caused by the death of a comrade in arms cannot be erased. This feeling made her instantly understand that war is not a game. At the end of the fourth wave, there are only a handful of more than 400 people, excluding Erika who also died in the battle. Daimyo is at loss. Before, although he didn't say it clearly, he thought from the bottom of his heart that it was not difficult to command the ninja. But now, the other side mode is very rigid. Although most of them are ordinary people here, ninjutsu and the equipment are still not enough. Regardless of command or understanding of ninja, he is far too far away. At this time, unknown music sounded, and the daimyo inexplicably felt that the decisive moment was coming even if it was only the fifth wave. But after 1 minute, the enemy didn't come like usual. Where is the enemy? Daimyo was surprised. He didn't see any enemies, as if the other side had cancelled the attack. But at this time, a silhouette appeared from the Konoha main gate. That's Zabuza. It's Zabuza. The ninja guarding the main gate shouted, but they just shouted, they didn't panic but instead prepared for the battle to come. But before some of them could react, the people watching from the back only see Zabuza swinging his weapon decapitating their comrades in half. In a split second, Zabuza disappeared while a fog suddenly appeared out of nowhere surrounding the ninja guarding the main gate. Hidden mist jutsu. With the fog filling the area and feeling the murderous aura locks on them, they know that they are done for. Facing Zabuza made all of them know how terrifying a rank Chunin is. The daimyo who was watching from afar didn't even have time to react, he just felt that the sky was spinning, then suddenly the picture changed rapidly. Wow, good fight. Jiraiya's sarcastic voice echoed in Daimyo's head that made him have an urge to kill the owner of the voice instantly. Oh, coming out so soon, it seems to be over. Uzumaki Mito lightly said with a smile, seeing the Daimyo opened his eyes. The Daimyo, who is not in a good mood, coldly snorted, and did not answer. The third Hokage muttered for a moment and asked, "Your Excellency Daimyo, what have you met?" Illusory domain. Except for Akaban and the people who have experienced it, it's difficult to understand what happened inside it. Yes, Grandfather, what happened to the fifth wave? Erika is also very curious. Daimyo opened his mouth, feeling a little hard to speak. Since if he explained that only one man was needed to eradicate his army of ninjas, he would surely lose face as a Daimyo. Also, what he hated the most was the last sentence of mockery he heard before he died. Fifth wave. The third Hokage awkwardly ends the topic when he hears Erika and smoke on his pipes like he didn't ask anything in the first place. Although he doesn't know the details, but judging from his expression alone, it seems that Daimyo has lost miserably. How can this kid not know how to make concessions? The third Hokage curses Akaba. After thinking about it for a long time, he still doesn't know how to comfort him. Hiruzen, can virtual games be used again? Daimyo asked, since he was unwilling to suffer a loss just like that. Using an illusory domain on such a large scale, do you think we can use it as many times as you want? Uzumaki Mito said coldly after hearing it. The third Hokage immediately explained after Uzumaki Mito, since he didn't want to complicate things. Your Excellency Daimyo, illusory domain with this large scale, using it once is the limit. So that's how it is. Daimyo sighed, then pondered and said, "Sorry, I don't know much about ninja." Ha! Uzumaki Mito's eyes widened, hearing an apology she didn't expect and thought unbelievable. This stubborn fellow even knows how to apologize. The talent of Your Excellency Daimyo is not to fight in ninjutsu, but to rule and manage the entire country. The third Hokage sighed and continued, in comparison, we ninjas are just a tool for war. War is a very profound knowledge that only you ninjas can master. And even if I study it even when I was young, I wouldn't master it even if I used it all my life without being on a front line. Daimyo said while laying down his tired body. With a blow, his interest in the game dropped rapidly. It's good if you have this consciousness. Uzumaki Mito said with a mockery in her voice, no trace of politeness at all. At this time, Akaban, Jiraiya, Sakumo, and Murasaki came to the stands, and the four were about to salute Daimyo. Forget it. Daimyo's face is very ugly seeing them, especially when he saw Jiraiya's idiotic face. This white-haired boy is very similar to that nasty guy in illusory domain. He thought, with hate filling his heart. Lord, this is the end of the comic exhibition, do I announce it now? Akaban asked after bowing. Akaban, you consume a lot of chakras earlier, I will do it so you can rest now. The third Hokage said with a slight smile. Yes. Although he didn't consume that much chakra due to his upgraded physique, Akaban will certainly not disagree when someone gives him free time to laze, which he happily agrees to. The Daimyo wanted to stay for a while at first, but his intentions waned when he saw Jiraiya's face, and the words rookie, woohoo, and good fight that was full of mockery echoed on his head. That's it, Erika, we should go back. He beckons with his hand and lets his people support himself. Erika is a little bit reluctant, but the show is over, and they must return to Daimyo's mansion. The subordinate guard pulled the carriage over, while Erika and another subordinate supported daimyo and walked to the side of the carriage step by step. But when the daimyo was about to enter the carriage, he suddenly halted his step and said without turning back, "Mito, after this time, maybe we won't meet again. Life is short. Especially for normal people like him. Just like they said, a start also has an ending." The daimyo raised his head, he looked at the clear sky and whispered, "About the land of Uzumaki, I'm sorry. Go away." Uzumaki Mito waved her hand and her tone clearly was not good. Tsunade, who also heard it, did not speak. It seems that the negotiation is not going well. Akaban thought to himself. When daimyo got on the carriage and gradually disappeared from the mountain road, Uzumaki Mito sighed sadly. Their generation will eventually come to an end. The comic show has ended, everyone returns to the village to rest. The third Hokage uses his chakra to amplify his voice and said. The audience in the rest of the stands heard his voice, and then looked around and found that daimyo had already left, and one by one knew that the comic show was really going to end. It's over like this. It feels so short, I haven't played for long. Waiting for the next time, I am afraid it will be a long time for it to happen. Many people are reluctant to leave, including the ninjas. It's just a short and rough comic exhibition, but for those who have very little entertainment in their life, it is already an activity worthy of nostalgia. The comic exhibitions are not only held during important times like this if you want to start an exhibition yourself, but you can also do it without a problem. Akaban stood up and said. Holding a comic exhibition ourselves. Everyone was stunned for a moment hearing it, although some people were excited, some still had doubts since they all thought that the exhibition was made for the daimyo to watch. Cough, what Akaban said was right, the show can be big or small and I will not do anything to stop it. The third Hokage explained while coughing awkwardly. If he hadn't contributed to inviting the daimyo, this comic show would indeed be a small and spontaneous performance. So that's how it is. After listening and while having the Hokage consent, everyone's eyes shined. They just think that this kind of event, like Chunin exams, will become a large-scale official event. So I can hold it myself. Very good, Grandma, I want to play Lady Mito. A little girl yelled happily. Idiot, Lady Mito is not a comic character. The noisy voice coming from children, with the constant cheerful laughter was heard. Their voice is very weak to the central stand, but for the ninja, this is not a problem. The third Hokage took a glance at the scenes and seeing how happy they were, made him proud and satisfied. However, before he could immerse in his happiness, he heard a not-so-cute voice from his side. Hey, teacher, don't forget that you still have money to give me. Tsunade gleefully said. Third Hokage, you must not forget the things you promised. Akaban followed suit. Isn't he doing things like this just to bring a caravan to Land of Wind for him to ride? Although the third Hokage didn't forget about it, being reminded by these two really gave him a headache, especially Tsunade who he owed a lot of money. Jiraiya who was at the side immediately exploded when he heard it and quickly complained. How can you do that, what about me? I played Naruto to its perfection so I should also have been paid for my effort. And also my masterpiece got torn by the princess need compensation. Hearing Jiraiya, Tsunade immediately retorted and said with a sneer, Idiot Jiraiya, being Naruto is also like being you, so what perfection, che? Also speaking of your rubbish painting those kinds of things in public is just a shame on our Konoha village. Okay, you don't need to fight over it, since the benefits for being part of the show will not be less. The third kid sighed, really a group of unlovable children. After all of them calmed down, Uzumaki Maito smiles faintly at them and said, "Well, you guys go back and rest too." "Yes." Tsunade is very happy hearing it. Uzumaki Maito didn't say anything about her, so it means she won't interfere with her money. Akaban is curious about the outcome of the negotiation, but he is not in a hurry. Anyway, he will know about it in the end, so he didn't need to rush knowing about it. The entire group turned around, ready to leave. Then, goodbye. Murasaki walked at the end, bowed slightly to say goodbye, and followed everyone's footsteps. Uzumaki Maito looked at them leaving and sighed softly. At this time, Danza walked out slowly from the shadows. "So, Danza, as the protector of the Konoha village, I can't do a thing about the land of Uzumaki, so I will leave everything to the two of you," Uzumaki Maito said while sighing. "Lady Maito, please rest assured, I will try my best," Danza answered in a rare and serious voice. He will spare no effort to help the Uzumaki clan regardless of interest or emotion, since it's Uzumaki Maito who requested it. Even if the overwhelming majority can't be a ninja, but at least. The third Hokage smoked halfway through. In this negotiation, Daimyo finally backed down. He allowed some Uzumaki clansmen to escape into the Land of Fire, but except for the Uzumaki kids in Konoha, the rest must be kept anonymous and can no longer be ninja. The four returned to Konoha together, and on their way back, they met many residents of Konoha on the road that was also on their way to their home. "Akaban, good job. It's so good, but unfortunately you are going to participate in Chunin exams." "What are you talking about? We should be happy that we participated in the exhibition. Thanks to the ninja mechanism, even if they are not a ninja, the residents of Konoha still have a fairly high understanding of ninja. So when they met an acquaintance or friend that was a ninja, everyone either sighed, praised, or asked about Chunin exams." "What? Why are you only praising Akaban? Obviously we have done a lot too." Jiraiya, who didn't hear his name being praised, almost went crazy. Obviously, this guy is the laziest, but it is him who is in the limelight. "Yes, you guys are great too." A familiar voice praised him. Turning their heads, they really saw someone they didn't expect to see. "Sensei. Sarutobi uncle, you are here too, he. Tsunade, who saw Arata Sarutobi, greeted him meekly while scratching her cheeks, clearly embarrassed since she forgot to invite her previous teacher /uncle. "Since you didn't invite me, I had no choice but to follow Hokage-sama, you cheeky brat," Arata Sarutobi said in an angry tone. He, don't mind about these details. Ha ha ha, joke aside, smelly brats, you guys are making rapid progress, and even surpassed me, your teacher," Arata said, clearly proud of them. Unlike him, who didn't have high innate talent and can only become a Chunin for the rest of his life. The four kids in front of him were definitely a gem that will shine if polished carefully. Among the four people aside from Akaban, except for Jiraiya, the rest definitely have a strength that surpasses him. Just what kind of things they experience? He thought in his heart. He touched Jiraiya's head and said, "Jiraiya, if you don't train, you will fall behind them, so keep working hard." "Hateful, why it's me again, Arata-sensei, I tell you, I am already very strong," Jiraiya said while struggling with his head pressed. Hearing it, Arata Sarutobi smiled, then messed his hair without giving Jiraiya a chance to resist, and pulled out his hand while laughing. "Of course it's a joke, but if you just draw and neglect your training, what I said will definitely come true, so be sure to train." Sensei is right. If you become the only one to lose during the Chunin exam because you keep on doing research material, then we will all be embarrassed too, Akaban said, agreeing with what Arata said. How can you look down on me like that? I will definitely become stronger. Jiraiya, who heard Akaban's words, became angry and also feared this guy. Doing research material. What the hell is this guy? He knows everything. What is research material? Tsunade slightly frowned when she heard the word she didn't recognize, and she also felt uncomfortable in her heart when she heard it. It's nothing, painting sometimes needs inspiration. Also, don't look at me sleeping at home every day. In fact, this is also based on material that you research. Akaban waved his hand and did not reveal it. Jiraiya is already pitiful enough, and if Tsunade beats him again, then he will surely can't attend the upcoming Chunin exam. Yes, what Akaban said was right. Also, I need to train, so I will go to Mount Myoboku. After Jiraiya finished speaking, he immediately looked for an opportunity to withdraw, lest Tsunade let her imagination run wild again. I really envy you. Since I don't have innate talent, I have to work hard. Murasaki shrugged and left. If only Jiraiya were to go, Tsunade would definitely become suspicious of him, but now the doubt in her heart disappeared when Murasaki also left. There are only 3 days left before their departure, so everyone really needs to train well. I want to continue to study Chidori. Sakumo glanced at his knife and said, although Chidori has been developed successfully, it cannot be used by himself perfectly, so studying it was a must for it to be perfected. If you want to study this way, you can consider expanding the coverage of Chidori, or you can try focusing it on your weapon. The directions provided by Akaban are Sajuke's Chidori Flow and Chidori Blade. These two kinds of transformations are more suitable for Sakumo. I have this idea too, Sakumo said, pulling out the short blade from his waist. As chakra was injected, lightning appeared on the knife. Lightning-style chakra is condensed on the blade, but it is not stable. It sometimes looks like a blade, and sometimes spreads out without any offensive form. Your chakra control is not enough, Tsunade reminded him when she saw the problem at a glance because she had encountered the same problem before. Yes. Sakumo sighed and put his blade back on its sheath. Chakra control. This is a technique that every ninja needs to exercise, but it is different for each individual. Sakumo control is not necessarily advanced by leaps and bounds like Tsunade, that's why he can't perfect it immediately. Bye. He waved his hand, then jumped on the tree and quickly disappeared into the jungle. Akaban held his chin and pondered for a moment. He suddenly felt something was wrong seeing the three leave one by one. Hey! Well, what's wrong? He stopped pondering and looked over in confusion. But what he saw was Tsunade clenching her fist with a fierce expression on her face that made him confused and thought, what's wrong with this girl? Tsunade clenched her fist, and threateningly said, you actually painted Haku to death. I originally wanted to beat you earlier. But that kind of ending is really touching. Seeing that you come up with such a beautiful ending, I will let you go for now. Thank you very much. Akaban replied feebly, but couldn't help but vomit secretly. If she wasn't deeply moved by the performance earlier, then she will, forget it. Anyway, women/girls are not reasonable in the first place, Akaban thought. Tsunade, who was back to her usual self, suddenly asked, looking emotional while staring at the sky while walking. Akaban, do people really turn into bluebirds after death? Art knows no borders. The adaptation of Haku's death still has extreme effects on its audience, like on Tsunade who yearns for it. The bluebird is the sustenance, so do you think they will? Akaban feels that he should say that with a cigarette in his mouth at this moment, to meet the profound and literary temperament of an intellectual. However, he doesn't even have a tobacco pipe. If people really become bluebirds after they die, I hope my grandfather and grandma will still be together in the future. Tsunade said while yearning for it to happen. The first Hokage has been dead for many years, so if he becomes a butterfly they won't be together with her grandma in the future like Haku and Zabuza. Besides, who wants to learn the impure world reincarnation, just to bring back the first Hokage to life to ask him if he really became a bluebird? But to say these things, the risk of being beaten is as high as 98.7%. So Akaban did not speak sensibly. By the way, what did you trade with teacher? Tsunade suddenly remembered. In the stands, Akaban and the third Hokage mentioned this, and she also remembers him meeting the third Hokage inside the Hokage building. Now thinking about it, he really must have reached a deal with the third Hokage first before her. It's nothing, I just asked the teacher to allow me to take the caravan to the Land of Wind. Akaban didn't intend to hide it from her, so he answers casually. Take the caravan to Land of Wind. Tsunade was a little surprised, and she immediately knew what it entails of having a caravan in the Land of Wind. The comics. She pondered for a moment, and then she persuaded, are you sure you plan to sell your comics there? I think it will be more difficult to sell it with how our village conflicts with theirs. I know, that's why I'm going to bring my new comics named One Piece, not Naruto. Akaban shrugged. Hidden Sand Village is restless, they are always thinking about expanding their reach and also becoming stronger, so how could they buy the comics of Naruto that portraits the Konoha on it? But One Piece is different. The story of the beautiful sea is definitely an interesting topic for those people that was like a duck on land. Oh, that's the new manga with a weird style. Tsunade said. A weird painting style. What are you talking about? One Piece painting style is definitely a good one. If you read different kinds of comics in the future, you will definitely be charmed by that style of painting. Akaban answered confidently. In fact, he didn't lie either. The style of One Piece is really good. Really. I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, I wonder if I can wait for it until the Naruto comics are finished. Tsunade said to herself, but when she didn't hear any reply she realized that Akaban had already gone far. Wait for me. Why are you leaving so fast? Go home, I want to sleep. Although Tsunade kept pestering him to train after going back instead of just painting comics all day. But for him, is training more important than his comics? The exhibition took less than a day, but the preparation time took 3 or 4 days, so his energy was obviously depleted. After he enters his house, he directly goes to his room and lies down on his bed to sleep. Feeling the comfortable bed on his body, all the exhaustion immediately kicked in that made him directly enter his dreamland. Until noon on the next day. Akaban, get up, the Great Elder is coming today. Akaban was sleeping soundly when suddenly his mother's voice reached his ear that made him aroused from his sleep. And before he could get up from his comfortable bed, his door was knocked loudly and it made him grumble. Why can't I sleep peacefully? Although he was complaining, he still got up from his bed and opened his door. Opening his door with a listless look on his face, he saw his mother Kiko Kurama with his little sister waiting for him. Seeing the two, Akaban greeted them first and asked. Good morning, so why is the Great Elder looking for me? Seeing her child's face, Kiko smiled gently and answered. Silly child, it's already noon. And about the Great Elder, it seems he came to see you, and bring some supplies and rewards from the clan. This old man is coming here means it's nothing good. Akaban rubbed his messy hair and whispered. Although he said it in a low voice, Kurama Kiko is still a ninja, so she heard it clearly and chided him awkwardly. You child, how can you say that? Although she feels the same way as her son, she always thought it feels disrespectful to say it like that. Anyway there is no outsider here and little Tomiko will not say it, right? Akaban said with a smile. But that great-grandpa may be coming soon since I can already sense him. The little loli nodded her head cutely and told her finding. For her perception ability, Kiko Kurama is not that surprised since they all know about it already, but of course, they repeatedly emphasize that she cannot show this ability of hers in front of outsiders since it will only attract danger to her. Hearing it, Akaban sighs and says they are really fast, then I will wash first and change my clothes so mother and little Tomiko can entertain them first. Nodding their head, the two left and directly went to the front door of their house to welcome the coming guests. Akaban closed the door after seeing them leave and quickly washed and changed his clothes. When the Great Elder arrived with the two on his toe, Akaban happened walking downstairs, so the two of them met head-on. Kurama clan's Great Elder has the most say in the clan than the patriarch due to his age and knowledge about the clan. Great Elder, why did you come to our humble residence? Akaban asked lightly. He then sat down with no trace of politeness at all. The spiritual energy he used yesterday was still too much for him that it still affected him, otherwise, he would not sleep for so long. The Great Elder named Murano didn't mind his attitude, he waved his hand to let the two leave and also sat down in front of Akaban. After making himself comfortable, he directly asked. On the comic exhibition, the illusory domain ninjutsu you used is a variant of Death Mirage Jutsu, right? Kurama Murano said solemnly. It is indeed the case. Akaban nodded his head and didn't plan to hide anything. This kind of ninjutsu has been studied in the clan for many years already, but after not getting any result on their research, everyone thought it was useless and gave up on it. Kurama Murano is the oldest Kurama clansman alive, and knowledge is his only treasure. Sure enough. Kurama Murano was shocked for a moment, then he took a deep breath, and exclaimed, Akaban, you are really Kurama clan's unprecedented genius. It's still a rough and immature genjutsu transformation, so it's nothing at all. Akaban didn't think it was that great at all. Since with a little modification, he can only achieve an illusion like animation, games, etc. To reach the real genjutsu that can make you enter it like it's a real world, I am afraid that it will take a long time of work and hard work. It's already quite amazing. Kurama Murano said, hearing Akaban's passive voice. Genjutsu is different from ordinary ninjutsu due to how difficult it is to control and understand the usage of spiritual power. The Kurama clan has spent so many years studying it, and many geniuses have also exhausted their lives but still have not accomplished what Akaban did at the comic exhibition. Kurama Murano sat on his knees, leaned forward, and said in a bowing posture, I want to ask you to teach us this genjutsu. Murano Grand Elder, Akaban, you guys. Kurama Kiko, who bought refreshment and just came back, was shocked seeing the scene of the Grand Elder posture that was almost like he was begging her child. I don't mind teaching the genjutsu, it's all for the clan after all. Akaban answered while supporting the Grand Elder to rise from his position with a smile on his face. Just from his attitude alone, Akaban was already satisfied. So teaching them the genjutsu, he doesn't have any problem with it. However, if their attitude was like a gangster who comes to their front door while shouting surrender the genjutsu to the clan, it will be a different story to talk about. So seeing how sincere he is, made him respect the Grand Elder a little. By the way, we know that you are going to participate in Chunin exams, so we prepared a gift for you. Kurama Murano said, then he took out a sealing scroll from his sleeves. Akaban was slightly surprised seeing the scroll. Sealing scroll is more precious, generally only used to store precious items. What did Kurama Genii bring? He was very curious in his heart and couldn't help leaning forward. Kurama Murano is very old, so when he uses a hand seal, it is very slow. But it didn't bother him as he continued to do it with a very serious face and released the seal on the sealing scroll one by one, albeit slowly. The thing should not be big, otherwise, we will go to the open space before releasing it. Akaban thought. He didn't mind the slow process and instead was guessing in his heart about the gift he will receive. All right. As soon as the voice was heard, the last seal was removed. Bang! The sealing scroll generates violent chakra fluctuations, followed by 2 items appearing on the scroll. Seeing it, Akaban's eyes widened. What appeared was a pen with a special shape, and also a special drawing board. These 2 things are the precious items that Kurama Murano attaches so much importance to. AKA and thought in doubt. They are. Akaban picked up the stylus and tried it for a while in doubt since it only looked odd, but his doubt completely vanished when he felt the difference in material and exclaimed. It's a chakra weapon. Yes, chakra weapons are made of special materials. Kurama Murano nodded. Chakra weapons can withstand chakra, allowing chakra to produce nature transformation effects on the weapons. Akaban picked up the drawing board and tried to inject his own chakra. A layer of chakra film emerged on the drawing board, and what appeared was soil from the nature transformation of the earth. Try the pen again. Ink automatically surfaced on the drawing board after injecting his chakra, and the pictures of water bullets were drawn on it easily. And suddenly, the water bomb manifested on top of the drawing board like a real ninjutsu. Hey, Akaban, how can you use such dangerous ninjutsu in the room? Kurama Kiko's complexion changed seeing it. In the next second, Akaban held the drawing board and blocked these water bullets one after another. If a chakra is not injected that much on the ninjutsu, its damage will be limited. But from the effect, the defensive ability of the drawing board is quite good, and it is a good weapon and armor for him. But giving him this kind of powerful chakra weapon is definitely not worth the price for the unsuccessful ninjutsu they want from him. So Kurama Murano doing this was like an investment on him while also showing his good side. Thank you, Grand Elder, for your gift. Akaban said while putting away the brush and drawing board, and now he is a person with chakra weapons. No, you're welcome. Kurama Murano was stunned and answered dumbly. Is that water attribute nature transformation? He was secretly shocked that in addition to genjutsu, this kid also mastered the chakra nature transformation of soil, water, and even more. This innate talent is really too terrifying. He must be given a position in the clan. Kurama Murano secretly said in his heart. He did not ask about his water attribute nature transformation, but after thinking about it for a while, he said, we can't help you on ninjutsu, but if you have other requirements, just say it and we will do it for you. Since you said it like that, I actually really need some people. When I go to Land of Wind for the Chunin exam, I will bring a caravan, but it needs people to man it. Originally, I planned to hire personnel from Yamano-san factory. Akaban said. Ha ha ha, what do you kid think of the clan? We can do this kind of trifle thing by ourselves. Kurama Murano smiled heartily. Since that's the case, I'm sorry to bother you. Akaban bowed slightly. Don't worry about it. Kurama Murano waved his hand to show that he didn't care, but he was very happy deep inside. Since the more contacts they made with Akaban, the deeper the bond he will have with the clan. Since I already finished my business here, I'll leave first. Kurama Murano got up and walked out tremblingly. Let me help you, Grand Elder. Kiko said and supported Murano while walking. Akaban got up and followed them outside, and only returned to the house after watching him leave. Looking at the chakra drawing tools on the table, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. These two must be customized for him, so it has little to do with his transformation of genjutsu. Regardless of whether there is a comic performance or not, the Kurama clan will send it over to enhance his chances of surviving on Chunin exams. It's hard to imagine that the clan will become so weak that they put all their hope on his back. Early morning on the third day. Everyone gathered at the gate of Konoha, and Akaban found that besides his and Orochimaru team, there was another team going to take the Chunin exam with them. Moonlight Night Dance, Shinyui, and Sarutabi Shinosuke. Hey, I really didn't expect you guys to also participate in the Chunin exams. Jiraiya said in surprise. Hey. For your information, our grades were better than yours when we were still in academy and you dare to look down on us. Sarutabi Shinosuke retorted. Even though he knows Jiraiya well, he still feels very upset after hearing what he said. Really? I didn't expect we are in the same class. Akaban muttered in a puzzled tone. It's because you're too lazy to ask. Hearing it, Moonlight Night Dance sighed and conceded. The more she gets in touch with Akaban, the less she will be surprised because this guy doesn't care about the outside world. That's right, Shinosuke, long time no see. Akaban waved his hand, which is a greeting. Yes, long time no see. Shinosuke also waved his hand responding to his greeting. He then moved to the side and used hand seals with both hands, then the rock near him turned into a chair. Akaban, seeing it become silent, and after a few seconds, walked up to him and poked him, then said, "Make me one too." Sarutabi Shinosuke didn't do what Akaban asked and replied, "This is my personal stone chair, if you want to also have one, you have to get it done using earth style." When Akaban was about to answer back, he heard an angry voice directed at him that made him stop before he got beaten. "That's enough." Tsunade, seeing it, can't stand it anymore and growl at Akaban, who was making trouble. She thought that the other team would be a decent team unlike hers and Akaban's team, but she didn't expect them to be even worse than she thought. Especially Shinosuke, who uses ninjutsu directly to make a stool for himself. Furthermore, if they continue bickering with each other, she is sure that it will be already night before they finish it. Hearing Tsunade's almighty roar, the others who were doing their own business all turned their heads on her. With how fierce she is when she is talking, how can they not give a face to her? But the tension suddenly got broken when they heard Akaban's words. "Brother, can you lend me your chair? I am too weak to stand up." Akane said to the guard on the side. "You are Kurama Akaban, since your physique is weak, it's not that weird for you to ask. Here you go." the Chunin said and passed the chair he was sitting on Ikeban after recognizing him. Kurama's physique is not a secret, so it's not weird for the Konoha guard to know about it. Ikeban froze for a moment. He didn't expect the guard to really give him the chair, and he suddenly felt ashamed thinking how he lied about his condition. Sorry for the trouble, brother guard. Before Ikeban finished speaking, he was already sitting in the chair. Tsunade is speechless witnessing the weird scene happening in front of her. Especially looking at Ikeban's face and thinking, does this guy really feel sorry? But the Chunin didn't care about giving his chair. Instead, he was even more excited than Ikeban, and he then said excitedly, Ikeban, your show that day was so exciting, especially the last scene of Haku and Zabuza turning into a bluebird. It was so touching. It's nothing, I just happened to think of it. This brother seems to be one of my fans. Ikeban froze for a while and was suddenly enlightened. He then took out the drawing board and paintbrush and started painting. Shua 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 tilde. In a few minutes, one drawing is completed. For you, as thanks for your seat. Ikeban slightly smiled while he gave it to him. After all, it's his loyal fan that loves his work, and it's not good to let his fans stand there without giving him some reward. The Chunin guard glanced at the painting and was stunned by what he saw and stutteringly said, this is. The painting is the epitome of the last scene where Zabuza meets Haku's phantom. And above them were two blue flying birds side by side. By the way, what is your name? Ikeban asked. Yohara Ling. The Chunin answered with a smile. Yohara, what a good surname. Ikeban was taken aback for a moment, and then he wrote his signature and Yohara's name. Thank you. Yohara Ling said, full of gratitude, and accepted it happily. Since if he shows it to his son who also likes comics like him and gives it to him as a gift, his son would definitely be delighted. After Ikeban gives the painting, he plans to rest on the chair since he knows it's going to be a long journey for them to reach their destination, but it seems he can't do that. Because, just as everyone was waiting, a voice was heard. Are all the teams here? Following the voice, a ninja with a black sword came along the street. The moment he saw him, Sakumo immediately became more serious. Jiraiya also no longer glanced around and immediately became serious, including Orochimaru and Murasaki, who stopped their small movements. The stone chair under Shinosuke also disappeared automatically, and he quickly stood up and saluted. Uncle Sasaki, I didn't expect you to lead the team. Tsunade said in a surprised voice. Hello, Uncle Sasaki. Ikeban immediately greeted while standing up from his seat awkwardly and continued, sorry, UN. Hatake Sasaki slightly nodded, and emotions cannot be distinguished from his facial expressions. After that, he glanced all around. After seeing all of them here, he said, this time it is not a local event. We are going to the Land of Wind and I will lead the team as a Jonin. Finally, he looked towards Ikeban, and looked around strangely, and asked. Where is the caravan? They are all ordinary people, so I let them go to Land of Rivers and wait for us there. Ikeban explained. They are all ninjas, and they can rush from Konoha to the Land of Fire border in one day, but the caravan is crowded and in stock. It will take at least 2 or 3 days to get from Konoha to the Land of Fire border. If he didn't let the caravan go first, and they arrived there before them, then it's meaningless to bring a caravan in the first place. Very well, let's go. Hatake Sasaki said as he threw a note on the table. This is a permit. Of course, Yohara Ling will not block them with these trivial matters. After bowing and saluting, he wrote down their names on the list and let them leave. With Hatake Sagaki leading the team, the atmosphere of the whole team becomes cold and strict. Along the way, everyone rushed with all their strength and did not dare to chat. "Hey, Sakumo, your father." After a long time, Jiraiya couldn't help but ran closer to Sakumo and asked quietly. "Stop talking, go forward with all your strength." Sakumo replied coldly and then quickened his pace. Jiraiya was stunned. How come this guy has completely changed himself? Reaching the Land of Fire border after a long run, Hatake Sagaki stopped. He looked around first, then said after seeing no abnormalities in the surrounding. "Take a rest here." "Yes, father." Sakumo sat down first, putting the short blade on his lap. Seeing his son's posture, Hatake Sagaki was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Sakumo, don't be too stiff, this is outside, so relax." "Ah, yes. Lord Hatake, I didn't expect you to lead the team." Orochimaru slightly smiled and said. In Sakumo's situation, it was obvious that it was also his first time learning about it, so he wanted to show off in front of his father. But what he didn't know was, since the development of Chidori, Hatake Sagaki has already recognized him. "Well, I didn't expect it either." Hatake Sagaki answered and also sat on the ground, with the same posture as Sakumo. "Father has killed a lot of sand ninja, right?" Sakumo is a little worried. Compared with the rest of the ninja village, Sand Ninja is relatively small. Hatake Sagaki lightly answered, showing his confidence. Because Land of Wind only wanted to take advantage of the loser, it didn't really invest in their main forces. After all, the second Kazekage did not participate in the war. Akaban interrupted and explained. The second Kazekage of the Sand Village was the only one who survived among the 5 great Kage in the First Shinobi War due to him not participating in it. The alliance with Konoha is also his proposition. At first, I wanted to take advantage of both sides. But because of other village interference, we instead formed an immediate alliance against the Land of Earth to deal with them, killing a few groups that weakened them slightly. Hatake Sagaki nodded and clarified. If that round is not won, Land of Wind should also form an alliance with Land of Fire, but the land will definitely not return. Murasaki muttered a moment later. Apart from Sand Ninja, are there other ninja villages? Shinosuke asked. Yes, ninja from hidden village like Rock Village to smaller villages also participated in it. Hatake Sagaki explained, and said in a serious tone, so you can't underestimate your opponent. Hearing it, Orochimaru lightly said with a smile. It doesn't matter, since we are the strongest. Yes, you just need to be the strongest. Anyway, I'm not interested in the Chunin exam. Akaban said. He then leaned against the tree and took time to rest. They run in just a few hours, so they can recover in just a few minutes since all of them are ninjas. But due to Akaban's thick face, everyone rested for half an hour before all of them once again moved following Hatake Sagaki lead. It didn't take long for everyone to enter Land of Rivers. The environment here is good. Orochimaru was surprised and didn't expect that there is such a country surrounded by mountains and rivers besides the Land of Wind. It is a buffer zone between wind and fire. Hatake Sagaki answered as he continued running on the road. This country is very miserable. It is almost the same as the current land of Uzumaki. Akaban said after considering it for a while. Owning fertile land didn't mean the village would also be fertile. Since the said village was being watched by 2 great hidden villages eyeing the land from each other, it's not weird for the Land of River to be this miserable. Like how the land of Uzumaki is being watched by all nations, but theirs are not because of land, but because of their sealing ninjutsu which they all wanted to be owned by their villages. We are going to the more prosperous city of Land of Rivers, but there are many rebels there, so be careful. Akaban continued. These are all the information he got from Yamano Izumi. Betrayal. Orochimaru licked his lips. Not only was he not afraid, but his eyes showed excitement. Betrayal. That means you don't have to be responsible for killing them. Hey, Orochimaru, what are you excited about? Jiraiya whispered. It's nothing, I just thought that there might be a fight, so I was a little excited. Orochimaru indifferently said. You don't have to worry about that since they wouldn't dare to take a shot against Konoha ninja. Hatake Sageki said. Rebels / betrayals have their own rules. If they don't want to be hunted by the Konoha ninjas, it's better not to do anything to them. That is one of Land of Rivers' rebel rules. The village is too close to Konoha, so they are just seeking death. They were very fast, and it didn't take long for them to cross the mountains and forest. What appeared in front of them was a town full of rogue ninjas roaming town. The town is not large, but compared to Land of Rivers, this is already a very prosperous area. I'll go to the caravan, you can play whatever you want. Since he arrived in the town, Akaban is going to leave everyone temporarily to look for the caravan that he sent first. Hey, this is too dangerous. Tsunade said anxiously. Hatake Sageki didn't speak but looked at them quietly. If you are worried, I will go too. Orochimaru faintly smiled and said, it just happens that I am not interested in this side. If two people are together it will be better than one, right? Okay. Hatake Sageki nodded. As Jonin agreed, Tsunade had no choice but to let them leave the team even if she was worried. Father, is it okay? Sakumo frowned. He felt that the purpose of these two guys was not so simple. Don't worry. Hatake Sageki's reply is very simple. As the leader of the team and a clan, he certainly does not think that Akaban's departure is just to find a caravan. But what to do with him? The Land of Rivers is chaotic and disorderly, and rebels here are not all good people anyway. So regardless of the killing, he has no opinion. However, if Akaban and Orochimaru want to leave the team, they must bear the cost of leaving the team. After entering the city, a team of 3 or 4 will move freely. Hatake Sageki said as he took the lead to the town. Why did you follow me? Akaban asked after they finally got a distance from their team. It feels like you are going to do something fun, so let me join in the fun. Orochimaru licked his lips and answered excitedly. I'm just going to inform the caravan. Akaban, do you believe it yourself? Orochimaru didn't believe it. Akaban is helpless. This guy has a crucial moment, how can he behave like Jiraiya? My caravan cooperated with others and came to Land of Rivers with its identity hidden. I wanted to open up a long-term trade channel, so I could not expose the identity of Konoha ninja. Akaban explained. Through the introduction of Izumi Yamano, another caravan agreed to try selling his manga. This cooperation is to open up the sales channel in the Land of Rivers area. There are underground rules. If Konoha ninja is required to participate, it will be more troublesome in places like Land of Rivers. It turned out to be like this. Orochimaru chuckled and took off his foreheadgear. Transformation Jutsu. In an instant, he has become an adult like the rest of the people. Akaban froze for a moment. He has to say that on transformation jutsu, Orochimaru's attainments in it can also be at the same level as what he redeems from his system. I just want to experiment with my newly created ninjutsu. If I don't encounter an enemy, I won't cause you trouble. Orochimaru shrugged. We are all together, so what is the point of saying these? Akaban shook his head, and the same also used transformation jutsu to change his appearance. And both of them started walking to the agreed location. He, Akaban-kun, it would be nice if you hadn't said that. Orochimaru smiled maliciously, and his pace accelerated a lot. I have sensed it, a lot of ninjas. Hearing it, Akaban didn't stop walking. Anyway, Orochimaru wants to do it. And he is happy to save energy. If Orochimaru couldn't deal with ordinary rebels, then he won't be Orochimaru anymore. Manga. What the hell is this thing? What's the point of this kind of little book, and you dare to sell this thing? Have we agreed for you to do it? Nearing the place where the agreed place was located, the two of them hear voices one after another. We have already paid Master Bang, and he allows us to trade here. The leader of the caravan explained. Bang. Humph, unfortunately, we have killed Bang. One of the rebels said with a sneer and continued, so you have to pay again to us. Impossible. The leader of the caravan was stunned hearing it since it's a little unbelievable for him. Since he just saw Bang yesterday, how could he be killed in one day? He is just a Chunin. Do you think he will survive fighting our leader that is a special Jounin? The rebel said full of disdain. Although the strength of special Jounin is different from that of Jonin, it is also very scary. How could trifling Chunin be their opponent? It seems impossible to talk peacefully. The leader of the caravan sighed softly and thought. While the ninja belonging to the Kurama clan inside was ready to fight. But at this time, a voice sounded. Are you the rebel in charge of this street? The stern silhouette walked out from the dark, and when everyone saw his face clearly, they suddenly were stunned. This guy has scars on his face, and it looks like he is not to be trifled with. Who are you? We are the subordinate of Master Sho. If you dare deal with us, Master Sho will not let you go. Seeing the ruthless face of the man that suddenly appeared that looked like he came from the battlefield, the rebels quickly bark with all their might. They use their master name to threaten the guy in front of them in fear. These rebels' strengths are not high, they can threaten ordinary people, but not someone who looks like a ninja since their existence in the ninja rank is at the bottom. They are afraid of death, so they dare not do anything with the other side. Who is he? The newly arrived rebel. Kurama clan ninja, hidden in the caravan, became vigilant, seeing the arrival of the man. This guy's aura is dozens of times more dangerous than Bang they meet. Under the transformation jutsu, no one can recognize Orochimaru right now. A special Jonin, right? Orochimaru smiled coldly, his eyes full of murderous intent, and said, you lead the way, or do you want me to? We will lead the way, please don't kill us, don't kill us. Before Orochimaru could finish his speech, all the rebels knelt quickly and begged for mercy, and then they rushed to lead the way. Akaban, who was watching from the side, frowned when he heard Orochimaru looking for the leader. That's special Jonin. He sighs helplessly and uses hand seals to create a shadow clone. There is no need to communicate. As the main body and clone, both parties have understood their intentions. Let's go, then. Orochimaru said with his face devoid of emotion. He didn't kill them since they were just small fry. Since special Jonin is more interesting. As he turned around, he couldn't help licking the corner of his mouth excitedly. Akaban's business development is not for him to become rich, but because he wants to promote his comics to obtain more points. Although his comics are popular in Konoha, the points he received were not enough, especially when stronger jutsu was about to appear with the upcoming next plot. So, if he wants to stay firm in Land of Rivers, he must have a good relationship with the local tyrant here. But the best choice was of course also to fight directly. Akaban followed Orochimaru while secretly observing the streets of the town. There are many shops on both sides, and there are a lot of people on the street. Seeing how bustling it is indeed one of the most prosperous towns in Land of Rivers. The house in front belonged to Bang. But our leader killed him this morning, so don't talk nonsense, lead the way. Orochimaru glanced at him coldly and said, making several rebels quickly fell silent. Yes. Not saying anything further, they quickly continued to lead the way. When they reached the door, several rebels were trembling in fear. This trip did not receive much protection fee, but brought outsiders back. They can imagine what terrible punishment will be ushered back. Humph. A chuckle was heard inside, but they didn't feel relieved, instead, they got chills on their back. If they enter the door they might die. But if they don't enter the door, they will also die immediately. Squeak tilde tilde. When they opened the door and entered, the smell of blood entered their sense of smell. Orochimaru sniffed and immediately guessed that the people who died here were within 2 digits. It seems that rebels here are quite abiding. You are coming back so quickly, is someone dissatisfied? An indifferent voice came out. No, yes. What? Hearing it, the rebel leader named Sho became impatient and walked from his room to the front hall. Orochimaru slightly frowned when he saw the leader's appearance. From the appearance alone, he can deduce this guy is a sand ninja. A rebel from Hidden Sand. Orochimaru's face became serious and entered battle mode. Seeing their leader, the rebels that led the way immediately crawled and quickly fled to the side of their leader. After feeling safe with their leader on their side, they immediately once again recovered their bearing, and they pointed at Orochimaru with hatred and shouted, "Leader! This is the guy!" Without any of the rebels knowing, all of them fell as they convulsed and died. The leader named Sho just glanced at them like they were ant and then stared at Orochimaru. A poison expert. Orochimaru thought and heightened his vigilance to the maximum. Who you are? The rebel leader asked. Hearing it, Orochimaru didn't answer his question and instead said, I just want to ask, the Land of Rivers is our rebels' zone, but you are definitely a sand ninja, coming here, you are courting death, right? Orochimaru's killing intent is revealed, ready to clash. Hey, you also said that this is the rebels' zone. Of course, I am here as a rebel. Sneered Sho. In the dark place where Akaban was watching everything, Akaban saw a silhouette emerge from the side wall. Puppet. Speaking attracts attention, so using puppet sneak attack is really Sand Ninja's style. He got up to kill Puppet. However, Orochimaru, with his hand behind his back, quietly gestured to him, meaning to stand still. It's hard to say. You can also be a spy from Hidden Sand Village, wanting to control this Paradise Rebellion. Orochimaru faintly smiled coldly, the scars on his face that crossed his face look so terrifying, complementing his murderous aura. How is it possible? I was here because... Sho explained in disdain, and when he finished talking, his finger moved and controlled his puppet to make a surprise attack. Tuk tuk tilde tilde. The poison needle was sprayed, and a puppet also flew from the eaves. However, Orochimaru's body bends in an incredible way, that made the poisonous needle just pass him. Holding a kunai in his hand, Orochimaru then immediately counter-attacked the puppet coming for him. Bang! The attack was unexpected. He caught off guard Sho, who was controlling the puppet. Although Sho's control was very high, he was still unable to avoid the attack that took his puppet arm. Body modification. Although it is just a basic elastic body modification, it can be seen that Orochimaru's research has been somewhat effective. I didn't expect you to have a little more ability, Sho said while pulling his puppet back to him as a shield, with his face becoming solemn. Compared with Bang, this guy is much better, Sho thought. I also didn't expect you to be this strong, Orochimaru said with a sigh. A special Jonin of Hidden Sand Village, although he expected it to be strong, but didn't expect this much. If you want to irritate me, then you succeeded, Sho said lightly. As he speaks, the puppet that was in his front suddenly rushes forward towards Orochimaru. This time, his chakra threads are shorter and more precise in control that made the puppet immediately come to Orochimaru in an instant. At the same time, bang! Underneath, a small puppet with a strange shape broke out of the ground. Two puppets. Orochimaru was slightly surprised, and quickly used hand seal with both hands. Wind style _ great breakthrough. The puppet's advancing speed slowed down a bit because of the wind. At this moment, Orochimaru twisted his body to avoid the attack of puppet, and made a hand seal. Tiger seal. What kind of technique is this? Seeing it, Sho tried to recall what kind of jutsu Orochimaru was going to use, but still didn't get a clue. But after he saw Orochimaru finish the seal and release the jutsu, he saw a thick fog sweeping over. Hidden Mist Jutsu. Mist Ninja. How can Mist Ninja appear in this place? Sho said clearly in shock and quickly tried to run away. However, the next second, he felt several ninjas with sword shadows appear. Sword. 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. The moment he thought of it, a huge beheading sword flew over his neck. In reality, only when the fog rose, Orochimaru could finally see what happened to the special Jonin. He saw Sho's body full of holes with blood flowing from his body. Let's go. Akaban's voice came from behind him. Kill in a second. Orochimaru was slightly startled since it felt unbelievable for him. This guy can control 2 puppets at the same time, and it's not surprising that he can become special Jonin. But to die in genjutsu. This kind of destructive power genjutsu is simply unscientific. His spiritual energy is very weak and it is easier to deal with him than Chunin, Akaban explained, seeing his face. Since you kill him, you can take this site as your own, and it can also be a stronghold. Orochimaru licked the corner of his mouth and said, if you are interested, I can give it to you. But if you are not interested, I will use a clone and clean up the rest. No, I am interested. Orochimaru immediately agreed. Since on the way here, countless thoughts came into his mind. And having the land of river, can one of them be realized? Then the condition is that you help me hide my hidden mist jutsu. Akaban lightly said with a smile. Of course. By the way, about my ninjutsu, do you want to learn it? Orochimaru smiled kindly, even though his face after using transformation was a bit scary. Akaban was sure that this guy is clearly excited. Soft body modification. Forget it. Akaban immediately rejected it while shaking his head. You are Orochimaru, and you will become a snake man in the future. And I still want to be human. Akaban secretly thought in his mind. It's unfortunate, I thought Akaban-kun would be interested. Orochimaru sighed softly, lamenting that his research results cannot be shared with others. In his opinion, if Akaban wants this kind of ability, his genjutsu's release will be more concealed and terrifying. However, Akaban is really not interested. He doesn't need to be self-sufficient. Why does he need to train such a soft body? As for the release of genjutsu, after the Uzumaki clan physique is fully redeemed, he can just replace it directly with Shadow Clone. With how much chakra Uzumaki has, having more clones is still possible. By the way, just leave it to Shadow Clone here, so as not to turn around and make people suspicious. Because he feared that battle here was going to be hard, he didn't dare to summon another clone, and also he didn't want to affect Orochimaru. But now that the rebel leader aka Sand Ninja Spy is solved, naturally, his concern in this regard also ceases to exist. No problem. Orochimaru nodded and used hand seals to create shadow clones. He has less chakra than Akaban, but during the duration of the shadow clone, it is completely enough to solve the problem here. He has great experience in dealing with these rebels. The deterrence adds a little bit of benefit, and the rebels dare not make moves on them. In terms of deterrence, Sho's death is shocking enough, and this news only brought them advantages. After looking for an opportunity to replace his clone, the memory of this period of time came to mind. The leader of the caravan is called Yinamaru Yang, who sells some basic iron tools to and from Land of Rivers. Akaban young master, it seems that our cooperation can only be suspended. Yinamaru Yang said helplessly. Originally, there was Bang protection. Their trade has never had a problem. But who would have thought that Bang would be killed by a new enemy? Before understanding the newcomer local tyrant's temperament, all trade was difficult to conduct, especially for the merchants. Are you talking about their new leader? If that's what you are worrying about, you don't have to, since our clan's ninja will deal with him. Akaban indifferently said and continued, the first thing we should worry is, do you think my comics can be sold here? Yinamaru Yang doesn't think that violent resolution is a good thing, but he also knows that it can only be done if the negotiations fail. When Akaban finished asking, he thought about it for a while and then shook his head and said, to be honest, we are not optimistic. Land of Rivers is too messy. It's hard to sell your entertainment products here for sure. Professional businessmen must be more authoritative in these aspects. Akaban did not deny it, but continued to ask other things. How about in the Land of Wind? The same, said the person who was taking care of the goods and keeping their account. Land of Wind has great ambitions. Their money is used to research and purchase war weapons. How can they buy this thing? Yinamaru Yang said while shaking his head. If it were not giving Yamano Izumi a face, he would not have agreed to a trial sale at all. Akaban, they are right, if you want to sell this in the Land of Wind, it's going to be difficult. Kurama's clansmen are also not optimistic and voice their opinions. They also do business. Although they are only inside the Land of Fire, they also know some business information in foreign countries. How about if we don't sell it? Akaban pondered for a moment, then asked, anyway, he is only doing this for points. And for money, he doesn't lack it at all. Not for sale. Not only Yinamaru Yang, but even Akaban's clansman also doesn't understand it. Yes, I just saw some pubs here. If you cooperate with the pub, how about giving my comics to the pub regularly for free? Akaban said with a slight smile and continued, of course, I will pay. Why do you want to do this? Yunamaru Yang was confused and didn't understand the meaning of this. Not making money. Should you spend money to show condolences to these rebel villains? Let them read it for free first, and wait for a while for them to like the story and then sell it later. Akaban slightly smiled and continued. Also, giving it for free will also make the comics circulate, since some people will try to sell it for money. Your thoughts? Yunamaru Yang was stunned for a moment, and thinking about it carefully, it's really feasible. However, the profit is still not too high. Is it not possible? Akaban asked, seeing his hesitation. No, but the profit may not be too high, you have to be mentally prepared. Answered Yunamaru Yang. It's okay. If we want to develop the habit of people reading comics, you have to pay a price for it first. Akaban answered lightly. Giving it for free is not a bad deal for him who will receive points from them. Of course. Actually, Akaban has more ideas, such as mixing promotional ads in his comics to make it more interesting. But he doesn't have any industry worthy of promotion, so he will give up for the time being. In this case, let's say we have established a cooperation. Akaban asked. Yes, I will bring your comics in the future, but you need to negotiate by yourself at the tavern, said Yunamaru Yang. Don't worry, we will take care of this, said Kurama Shiniwan on the side. He is a special Chunin that the Grand Elder sent to accompany the caravan with other clansmen that Akaban requested to man the caravan. In this case, Shiniwan uncle, you leave a group of people here, and the rest will enter Land of Wind with me. Akaban said. Okay. Shiniwan nodded and then began to issue orders. Walking out of Yunamaru Yang's shop, Akaban saw many people gathered around the stall just watching the comics from the side, not reading it all. It seems that your business is bleak. Orochimaru slightly smiled. From the very beginning, he has been observing at the door. There were many people coming and going to the shop, but no one paid for the book, but still, there are people who took it with them out of curiosity since it's free. It's okay. Losing money didn't hurt me that much anyway. Akaban said lightly, since he doesn't really care. With so many ninjas in this town, although the strongest is only at the level of a special Chunin, they can still contribute points to him. As long as there are points, money and so on are not important. I see, so can we go now? Orochimaru asks while looking at the back. They have spent a lot of time here, and if they leave much later, I am afraid that there will be no way to reach the town within the Land of Wind before nightfall. Not yet, we have to wait for a while. Akaban said as he slowly sat down, and after a while, he continued, if it's really not possible, we can be here for a while, anyway. Anyway, they have given you a lot of faces, he. Orochimaru smiled slowly. Due to his cooperation with Danza, he read all the big shots in the Konoha village. Hatake Sageki is always known for completing missions with no thread losses on his end. Not only did he let everyone rest more, but he also agreed to let Akaban leave the team. In any case, he treated Akaban extraordinarily. What are you talking about? I haven't eaten the fruit of face, so there is nothing like that at all. Akaban twitched his lips hearing Orochimaru. He met Hatake Sageki before he met him, so there is no special treatment at all. What is the fruit of face? Orochimaru froze for a moment but didn't understand whether Akaban's words were humorous or what they meant. It's a fruit from the comics, everyone will save face for the user after eating it. Akaban joked casually. Orochimaru was stunned and then reacted, this guy must be cracking a joke. Since there is no such fruit in the world. At this time, Kurama Shiniwan walked out of the shop. He glanced at Orochimaru, and then calmly said, Akaban, I left 5 Chunins, and the rest will go to Land of Wind with us. 5 Chunin. If he didn't kill Sho from the Sand Village, these 5 are not enough to even become his warm-up. But now, after dealing with him, these 5 can solve future problems themselves even if new local tyrants emerge again. Because, due to the war, the Land of Rivers has always been poor. Except for some fleeing ninjas, almost no one will run here, and most of the fleeing ninjas are at Chunin and Genin levels. But thinking of this, I am afraid the origin of Sho is not simple. Akaban glanced at Orochimaru while walking. If that guy is sent by Hidden Sand Village, I am afraid it will be a little troublesome next. However, Sho's death is more inclined to Hidden Mist's method. As long as Orochimaru is not caught, he can get away with no difficulty if problems arise. They walked along the street, and many rogue ninjas glared at them like a tiger watching its prey. This can be seen how chaotic really the Land of River is. It didn't take long for Akaban to see Jiraiya. This guy probably made some mistake because he was tied up. Oh, an idiot is an idiot. When Orochimaru saw this scene, he couldn't help but mock Jiraiya to infuriate him. Bastard Orochimaru, I'm going to kill you. Jiraiya, who heard Orochimaru ridiculing him, struggled with all his might trying to get free from his position. But due to how special he was tied, his struggle became futile. What's the situation? Kurama Shiniwan is a little confused. He remembers this guy is their teammate. Hearing it, Hatake Sagaki's mouth twitched, but it quickly disappeared and said, It's nothing, let's go. Needless to say, he must have been caught while doing his research material. Akaban, who already guessed what happened, ignored him, showing no sympathy for his companions who are bound on a pole. I followed my father and I visited the Land of Wind when I was young, and it has been so many years in the blink of an eye. The same scenery, the same yellow sand and scorching sun from above. Faced with such a situation, Kurama Shiniwan couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Hatake Sagaki didn't speak, but he looked towards a direction vigilantly and shouted, Friend from Sand Ninja that was hiding in the dark, we came from Konoha to participate in the Chunin exams. Hatake Sagaki of the Konoha. HMPH, I didn't expect you to lead the team. Sand Ninja. Everyone was startled, and quickly looked at the place where the sound came from, and what they saw was the appearance of a beast suddenly appearing in front of them. Puppet. Seeing it, Kurama Shiniwan's expression became grave. This is Puppet. Tsunade looked at it curiously. It seemed like a mechanism from the outside, hiding the main body while fighting with the puppet. Muzaki secretly remembered. These are the fighting habits of Sand Ninjas, which will be of great help to them a lot in the upcoming Chunin exam. Let's go. Hatake Sagaki said, no longer paying attention to the Sand Ninja, and walked sideways in the direction of Hidden Sand Village. Hateful, this guy. The ninja hiding in the sand froze for a moment, then clenched their teeth angrily. This guy doesn't even say hello. However, who remembers the name of a nobody? The Hatake clan have an extraordinary innate talent which all ninja nations didn't dare to deny, since it was shown at the beginning of the First War. For him, non-Jonin enemies are not worth remembering. Not to mention those who hide their heads and show their tails. Walking a section of the road, Kurama Shiniwan opened the carriage. He saw Akaban lifeless inside, and asked with concern, Akaban, are you okay? It's okay, I just kind of collapse. Akaban answered in a feeble voice. Since entering Land of Wind, the dryness, heat, and sandstorm have made it difficult for him to adapt, that made him collapse. If you are not feeling well, of course, you have to lie down. It seems you are better than I thought. I bet you can walk normally on the ground after a rest. Tsunade said confidently after eyeing Akaban's condition. She has learned some medical skills from her grandma Mito. But although she can only treat simple wounds, she can still discern that Akaban is perfectly fine. Don't say that, I'm very ill. Akaban choked. This little girl has this kind of medical skills now. After finally being able to lie down, he doesn't want to stand up and walk on this damned deserted sand road. You just want to be lazy. Tsunade looked contemptuous, but her posture. Che, you obviously want to sit too. Akaban lay down in peace and said in disdain. There is a good saying that, you do not have to be afraid of the opponent being smart, but you should instead be afraid of an opponent that has no desires. Tsunade has a demand, so it's easy to talk with her. He. Tsunade laughed, and since she was seen through, she didn't shy away and also sat on the edge of the cart and couldn't help sighs contentedly. Kurama Shiniwan, seeing it, wanted to open his mouth and talk, but didn't do it for a reason. If you want to live a good life, you have to turn a blind eye to some things just like this. After all, he can't afford to offend both of them. Besides, hiking on the cart was just a trial matter. However, even horses are a little uncomfortable in the desert with the scorching sun above them. They moved slowly step by step, and it was only in the afternoon that the weather got cooler. Until the sky becomes nightfall, finally. Hidden Sand Village, we are in Hidden Sand Village. Jiraiya's voice sounded. Akaban hearing it immediately lifted the curtain of the carriage and what he saw was a desert-style house everywhere. The sky is dim, but in the dim sunlight, Hidden Sand Village has become extremely beautiful and lovely in everyone's eyes after walking for so many hours in the scorching sun. We are finally here. Akaban shouted in his mind. And thought, this damned place, I will never come again in the future. Find a place to reside first. Tsunade shouted. After walking in the desert for a long time, they finally came to Hidden Sand Village. Everyone was anxious to go to the residence to take a bath and rest. Akaban got off the carriage and entered Hidden Sand Village with everyone. Walking to the door, everyone suddenly sensed a murderous aura. Turning their head and looking, they only saw a youngster who was only a little bigger than Akaban and the others, firmly staring at them in the distance. Hatake Sagaki only glanced at the youth, and then ignored him. Konoha's ninja, it's you. The Chunin gatekeeper didn't recognize him at first, but when Hatake Sagaki looked towards him, his face and eyes, a certain memory in his mind instantly emerged. He was a little frightened, and his hand that was holding a pen was shaking. At this moment, the youngster in the distance came over. The Chunin at the door was very ashamed. He bowed slightly to the youngster, then took a deep breath to forcibly calm himself down. The youngster nodded in reply, then he examined everyone with his eyes, and frowned, then asked, Konoha's guests, in total, huh? Why are there so many people? The caravan, I mentioned it to Lord Kazekage. Hatake Sagaki answered lightly. I see, then you are welcome. Please register your name first, and then I will take you to where your resting place will be. Although he didn't care too much about it, he still made them do the procedures. Akaban, who was at the side, observed the dude in secret. This youngster has dark blue hair, yellow eyes, and looks young, but since the Chunin gatekeeper just now bowed to him, obviously his status is not low. Such features. Is it the Sun Dame in the future? Akaban secretly guessed. More than that, this guy doesn't wear Chunin attire, maybe he is still genin now. It seems like Hidden Sand was doing it on purpose. His face was always calm and collected, but his heart was very surprised. The third Kazekage is the strongest Kazekage in the future until Gaara reigns. Although he died bitterly, he was indeed a decent man before his death. I have to remind everyone. Akaban took his eyes away from him and looked towards the signature sheet on the table. There are already several names on the list, which were written by other participants that come from other villages. Hatake Sagaki just glanced at it, staying calm and collected, then he wrote down the names of the others, and then handed the list to the Chunin gatekeeper. Guests, come with me. The dark blue-haired youngster respectfully walks to the front and leads the way. After a while, Akaban spoke up, "What's your name, little brother?" "My name is Zack," he answered with a smile, looking like a harmless kid. "As you can see, I am a member of the caravan, and I would like to ask, where is the place where vendors do their activities?" Akaban asked. "Stalls, activities." Zack was stunned for a long time. After thinking carefully about what it entailed, he finally half-guessed what Akaban meant. After thinking for a moment, he said, "It's getting late, so let me lead the way to your rest place first." "Right." Of course, Akaban will not reject it, anyway, he just made a message. In Naruto comics and anime, the third Kazekage didn't have screen time, but he was sure that this guy is definitely the future third Kazekage of the Sand Village. Because of the caravan, their speed is slow and many others, so along the way, everyone saw many ninjas from other villages. However, with Hatake Sagaki leading them, no one from other villages dared to provoke them. As they walked, Akaban saw a square. In the square, many ninjas are training, and some ninjas around are watching and collecting information. "Zack, little brother, can we set up a stall here?" Akaban immediately started to talk and asked. "Set up a stall? Here?" Zack hesitated for a moment and answered, "I can't decide this. I'm afraid I have to ask Lord Kazekage first." "It doesn't matter, it's too late today anyway." Without waiting for Akaban to answer, Kurama Shiniwan immediately started to talk to avoid this kid from continuing to make excessive demands. To put the stall on the training arena is really disrespectful. Different from what Kurama Shiniwan thought, Murasaki has an opposite idea since, for him, it would be more convenient to collect information here. Zack nodded apologetically, then walked around a corner and stopped. He pointed to the front and said, "Dear guests, the front is your residence. The house is full of piles of sand and gravel, but it looks more magnificent than the other building they saw on the way here, which shows Hidden Sand Village treats Konoha preferentially." "Thank you," Hatake Sagaki said, then he nodded his head and then went inside first coolly. The room is very large, and the decoration inside is not like a temporary residence. Hatake Sagaki walked around, coldly smiled, and said, "Hidden Sand really likes small moves. It seems that they gave us the best house, especially TSK. Obviously, Kurama Shiniwan also has a certain understanding of Sand Ninja's color. But there is such a good house, it is really comfortable. I am going to take a bath," Jiraiya said very excitedly. Through childhood, he has never lived in such a big and good house. "I want to take a bath too, so don't do shameful things, otherwise I will let you talk about ninja," Tsunade said while clenching her fists and looked at a certain someone with killing intent. Jiraiya, who was looked at, felt cold all over his body, and he didn't dare to retort to her. "Then, let's rest first," Hatake Sagaki said. Akaban didn't rush to talk about his guesses. Anyway, there are still 2 or 3 days before Chunin exams. These are unhurried for a while. He went upstairs and randomly selected a room. Next, he creates a shadow clone. You can continue to paint Naruto, I will trouble you. Akaban stretched out, then packed his clothes and got ready to take a shower. Shadow Clone looked at the tools in front of him and was silent for a moment. In chapter 34, it seems that where Sand Ninja appeared. He pondered for a moment and began to paint. As for the true body, naturally, he took his clothes and went to the bath. Hidden Sand Village is very barren, there are not many bath houses in the entire village. However, their residents had their own bathhouse. When he came over, Jiraiya and Orochimaru were already in the bath. Oh, you two came very early. Akaban lay down comfortably, and the warm water made him feel comfortable. The dry desert really made him unable to adapt. Orochimaru leaned on the edge of the pool, his eyes slightly closed, but his face was extremely solemn. In comparison, Jiraiya is enjoying it completely without any care. After a while, Orochimaru could not help saying, Akaban, the one who led the way. Ah, he is not simple. Akaban nodded, although his face remained unchanged, his tone is much more solemn. The future third Kazekage and a magnet-style ninjutsu user with the best potential. Even if he was not as good as his future self, he was still strong for his age. Ha! Why don't I feel it? Jiraiya said suspiciously. Heh. Orochimaru didn't say much, but a chuckle was already the biggest mockery for Jiraiya who heard it. Jiraiya's face turned red from anger after hearing it. He is very strong, and you're not at his level yet, but it won't take long for you to reach Chunin as well, so you don't have to worry about it. Akaban said lazily with his body deep in the water, drowsiness coming in him. Akaban rubbed his body. At this time, the rest of the people gradually came. He turned sideways and nodded, everyone, I am leaving now after washing. Have a good rest, tomorrow, you will have to set up a stall and have an event, and we cannot do it without you. Kurama Shiniwan said with concern. Yeah, I understand. Akaban waved his hand, took back the clothes he had changed, and sent a shadow clone to help him wash the clothes. And went back to the residence himself. In the residence. Good job, you have painted a lot. Akaban picked it up and read a few pages. The 34th chapter is halfway through. No problem. The clone whispered. What? You know. The clone continues to draw, thanks to the growing physical attributes of the main body, the speed the clone's draw is getting faster and faster. It's not a problem, I have my own plans. Akaban slightly smiled. Then he flung his clothes and lay directly on the bed. After lying in the carriage for a day, he was really tired. He just wanted to take a break, but he fell asleep after a while without him knowing. Early the next day. Dong 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 tilde tilde. The door was knocked loudly. Akaban is still not awake, but outside the door is not only Kurama Shiniwan but also Tsunade. If you won't get up fast, I will open the door for you. Tsunade's voice came in. Akaban's bewildered mind instantly aroused for a few minutes and then shivered slightly. Wait, I'm awake. He immediately jumped out of the bed and quickly got dressed. This little girl never walks through the door when entering his house, and when she said she was going to open it, it's definitely not in a normal way. Chunin exams will last for a long time. He doesn't want his door to be broken on the first day he arrives. What's wrong, early in the morning? Opening his door quickly, Akaban saw Kurama Shiniwan and Tsunade standing at the door. The hidden sand village agreed with us to set up a stall there, so it is time to set off now. Kurama Shiniwan said. Yes. Okay, I'll be right back. Akaban tidied up the drawings on the ground, and then hurried over to clean up the mess on the ground. He went to bed early yesterday and didn't even notice when the clone disappeared. After packing everything, he came downstairs, only to see that Zack had been waiting downstairs for a long time. More than that, besides him, there is second Kazekage, Shaman. Such a lineup. Akaban was surprised. He just applied for a booth and a Kazekage came to him. No, is it for collecting rent? Thinking about it in his heart, he felt that it was really possible. You are finally here, Kurama Akaban of Konoha. Shaman indifferently said, do you want to rent the training stadium? No, I just want to borrow a corner of the training stadium. Akaban knew that his previous guess was correct. This guy is here to collect rent. A corner. Shaman looked towards Zack and found that this kid was also a little confused. Yes, the goods our caravan carries are some entertainment books. As a price for borrowing a corner of the training stadium, all our books can be read by friends in Hidden Sand Village for free. Akaban said with a smile. Is that so? If it's a book, then you can set up a stall over there for free. Shaman said without hesitation. As a Kazekage, he attaches great importance to books because they are the carrier of knowledge. Only by mastering knowledge can the barren Hidden Sand Village become stronger. However, he didn't know that there were such things as comics in this world. Okay, in that case, we will start moving immediately. Akaban said while bowing slightly and added, we will also make sure not to occupy too much space on the training ground. In order to avoid misunderstandings, Zack, you don't need training for the time being in the morning, so let's help them handle these things. Shaman said. Yes, teacher. Zack lowered his head and agreed. Then, everyone, let's go. When Zack came over, Kurama Shiniwan had asked everyone to pack up, and now he got permission to move to the training ground. Akaban took a few steps and suddenly thought of something. He turned his head and glanced at Shinyai, smiled, and said, can you help me? Of course. Shinyai doesn't know what he was going to do, but out of trust in Akaban, he agreed without hesitation. How can I be missing such a fun thing? Jiraiya yelled, jumped down from the stairs, and quickly followed Akaban. After the Akaban team leave, Hatake Sagaki glanced at the rest who were left behind and said coldly, the rest, special training. Ha! Yes. Everyone has mixed reactions, but the majority are more excited. Elite Chunin is not a cabbage that can be found anywhere, especially at the level of Hatake Sagaki. Usually, if you want someone with the same level to guide you, you may not have the opportunity. I hope they won't get into trouble. Tsunade sighed, if even she could hear the misunderstanding of the second Kazekage, so how can Akaban not? That guy, for sure he intentionally didn't explain it for other party to misunderstand. Zack brought the caravan to the training ground. He looked around and finally fixed his eyes on the corner near the gate. If you only need a corner, this location is very good. Although it is the corner near the gate, the training ground is used and clean every day, so even the corners are very clean. But they immediately attracted everyone's attention when they entered the training ground. The presence of Zack leading them attracted not only the Sand Ninjas' attention but also the ninjas from other villages who were watching from the side. It's all right here, thank you very much. Akaban said, as he is not very demanding. As long as it is not placed near the toilet or garbage dump, he finds it acceptable. Zack nodded after hearing it, and then he looked at the Genins who were still training in the venue, hesitated for a while, and finally said, "Right, if you can, I hope you don't make loud noises to distract others." "Hey, you, we don't charge money, so how can you say that?" Jiraiya angrily said. In his opinion, they are already showing comics for free, but these guys are still suspicious. It is unreasonable. Akaban did not speak, but his expression already answered it all. "Sorry, I was wrong." Zack lightly bowed and apologized, but no apology could be seen on his face. "By the way, would you like to take a look at our work?" Kurama Shiniwan started selling. "No, I'm not interested in your stuff. In comparison, training is more interesting." Then he sat down on the side. Everyone tidy up and set up the stall. Kurama Yamamoto was not surprised and waved his hand to let everyone start working. "Move lightly, don't affect Hidden Sands friends," Akaban whispered, then moved a few stools and let Jiraiya and Shinyai sit down. Shinyai hesitated for a moment, then came over and asked, "What are we going to do?" "Of course, to draw a comic, but you don't have to worry about the content, just do whatever you want." Akaban glanced at Jiraiya in particular. Yes, this sentence is meant for him. Really, is it really possible? Jiraiya was a little surprised. In Konoha, influenced by Tsunade, the main force of harmony, his talents cannot be used at all. Believe in yourself, the burning blood of power of youth will never admit defeat. Akaban gave a thumbs up and assumed the same pose as Guy. Didn't expect you also have the courage to dedicate yourself to art, woo-woo. Someone finally recognized me. Jiraiya is full of motivation. Akaban handed over the drawing board, brush and paper, and ink in due course. Jiraiya took it without hesitation, and he then also took out a piece of shredded paper from his arms and held it in his hand like a treasure. Seeing it, Akaban's face went dark. Why did he still keep this painting? He thought. Shinyai didn't know what was going on, so he took a curious look at it, and then suspiciously asked, "Isn't it just a picture drawn by Akaban? Is it really that precious?" "This is not painted by Akaban." Hearing it, Jiraiya shook his head and denied it. Akaban, who was at the side, crazily shook his head trying to hint at Shinyai, but it seems he didn't see it and said confidently, "Apart from Akaban, who else can draw such exquisite patterns?" "That's true." Jiraiya's expression was stiff, and he turned to look at Akaban. "Ah, I think it was when I was drunk and I painted it accidentally." Akaban lied without batting an eye. "You really drew it?" Jiraiya's voice was 3 times higher, and he looked surprised. "Well, it's me." Akaban is very embarrassed, but he braces himself and nodded. Shinyai on the side touched his nose and he realized that Akaban probably didn't want to tell Jiraiya the truth. At this time, he also noticed the content of the painting. This kind of painting, well, no wonder. Shinyai felt more and more that he had done something wrong, and got up to retreat quietly. "Shin-kun, don't rush to leave." Akaban smiled and squeezed his shoulder, and then apologized to Jiraiya, "I'm not hiding it from you, so I will teach you how to draw. Who wants to learn this?" Shinyai growled in his heart, but he dared not say it to Akaban's face. His smile is too gloomy and terrifying. In comparison, Jiraiya is completely different. He has a look of excitement and immediately puts behind the unhappiness of being deceived. Since Jiraiya got this painting, it has been a supreme treasure for him, and worked hard to learn the essence of the picture. Unfortunately, it is too broken. He couldn't learn anything new again, which caused him to be confused. Now that the author appears, and he wants to teach him such a magical skill, how could he refuse? Being deceived? No, he is just indifferent to fame and fortune, so he was unwilling to show his talent. Jiraiya is already an incarnation fan in his heart, and he automatically created an excuse for why Akaban hid it from him. So for fear that Akaban would take back his promise, he immediately nodded his head furiously for fear he would regret it. Shinyai on the side panicked a lot, for fear that Akaban would settle accounts after the fall. Of course, he did not dare to refuse, so all he could do was also nod his head. First of all, you must confirm the coolness of this kind of painting. Akaban took a small bench and sat down. He paused when he said that and asked, Jiraiya, when you are collecting material for your inspiration, when was the most exciting part? Is it when the target appears or is it after they appeared? Of course it was when it first appeared. Jiraiya said without hesitation. Yes, grasp that feeling, and then draw it out. With various plots, you can present the most perfect painting. Akaban slightly smiled. End of the lesson. Shinyai thought about it for a while, then nodded faintly. In these areas, he lacks certain experience. But Jiraiya is different. This makes his perception extraordinary, and he immediately understands the essence of what Akaban means. His thoughts are like a fountain on the spot, and his inspiration is like a rain that suddenly appeared. Zack sitting on the other side looked confused. Akaban was teaching a lesson just now. He pricked up his ears and eavesdropped, but he understood the meaning of those words separately, but couldn't understand even the words in combination. Be cool. Get materials. What are these? All are, and don't they spread books? Why set up such things? As Sand Ninja, he couldn't understand all of this. Zack was itching curiously, but because of his identity, he couldn't step forward to check. He could only hold back his urge and sit there, glancing at them inadvertently from time to time. Akaban saw everything in his eyes. He laughed secretly and said nothing. Heh, just a child. After mocking him in his mind, Akaban started to paint. He also sat down and began to paint to ensure that someone could see it inadvertently, so he sat on the side. With just a few strokes, the preliminary picture suddenly emerges. Zack's eyes swept over, and his eyes couldn't move away immediately. With a stroke of pen falling, the picture becomes richer and richer, and he can't help but bring a look of shock to his eyes. Because what was in the painting was their hidden sand village. The more he looks at it, the more he is shocked. This painting is so realistic that it almost reproduces hidden sand village in the painting. These guys, what are they? Zack looked towards the book that was being loaded out by Kurama Shiniwan, and he had an urge to go up and see what it was. I have to hold back. These things are tempting me and I can't fall for their trap. He clenched his teeth and took his attention away. After that, Zack really didn't take another look at Akaban. Instead, he looked at the training ground very intently to not make him distracted. Akaban drew for a while and found that this guy did not look again, which made him surprised. Obviously, he is very curious, but he can still restrain himself. What willpower! No wonder he can become a talent. Akaban thought in admiration. But I still have tricks. Akaban slightly smiled. He picked up another piece of paper, and quietly wrote a line, and handed it to Kurama Shiniwan. Disguised as a child of Sand Ninja, then took a comic out for a stroll. What does it mean? Kurama Shiniwan read the note and didn't understand what some of it meant. But out of trust, he did not hesitate to execute it. He put away the note and calmly withdrew from the side. After that, he ordered a few ninjas. You use transformation jutsu to pretend to be. He conveyed Akaban's order as it was. Their strength is at the Chunin level, and there is no problem in sneaking and collecting information at a normal level. Not long after, several ninjas left. Zack just glanced at the ninja leaving and ignored them. He didn't care about them, not because he was being careless. This is Hidden Sand Village. If Konoha ninjas dared to mess with them, it's Anba's job to deal with them, not him. His mission is to watch these people and observe what they want to do, since obviously, it's very suspicious. Is it really just to let people read it? How absurd this reason is. Zack trains his chakra control while paying attention to Akaban's every move. In a few minutes, he suddenly heard a series of noisy footsteps. What's the situation? Zack looked towards the gate of the training ground warily. Next, he saw a group of children rushing in. It's on the training ground. Is the comic here? These children glanced around excitedly. Please be quiet, and don't disturb the ninja training. Akaban stood up and scolded righteously after seeing the commotion. Seeing it, Zack was stunned and didn't understand what was going on. These children. Children, Chunin exams are coming soon. Do you want to affect the ninjas because of your noises? Kurama Shiniwan said kindly, if you want to read the comics, you can read it outside, but you have to return it after you finish it. Okay, thank you, uncle. The children held down their voices and said in unison. Children, come outside, don't make noise. Yes, thank you, uncle. Children happily took the comic books and ran out of the venue. Zack was dumbfounded. These children came because of their books. So, the ninja who just went out did this. He didn't think it was so good, so he got up and walked over to Akaban and the others. What the hell is your book? Zack asked, his face being serious. Painting, books, and children are connected in series, and he feels a little uncomfortable. Maybe the teacher's plan from the very beginning is wrong. Well, as you see it, it's called comic. Akaban said, picking a copy and handing it to him. Zack glanced at the cover. One Piece. What is this? He took it and turned to the first page. A sea, a boat, and a youngster wearing a straw hat. The style of painting is very different from the bird's eye view of Hidden Sand Village that Akaban is currently drawing. Page 2, page 3. Zack's face gradually became serious. This is not a book to spread knowledge at all, but a boring storybook. Well, criticize it again. He continued to look at it. To him, the sea is very strange, so he has no way of knowing whether the painting on it is real or an absurd fantasy. Devil fruit. This thing, it really is an absurd fantasy. Zack sneered inwardly. If there is such a thing in the sea, the land of water has long dominated the sea. But the land of water right now is just a weak country that got cornered by other villages, so obviously, this thing is just an absorbed fantasy in his eye. Such boring books must not be forbidden. He secretly thought in his heart. But while thinking this way, he had already turned to the last page unconsciously. It's pretty good. Zack put down the comics and said, this kind of peculiar adventure story on the sea, to those who are in the desert for a lifetime and have never seen the sea, in fact, this story is very attractive. After returning the comic, he began to wonder how to deal with the problem at hand. Get it banned. still. He hasn't made a decision yet. He shook his head and heard noisy conversations around him. Looking up, outside the small shed, he saw dozens of trained genins holding the comic books and looking at them with keen interest and relish. Ha! Zack was stunned. When did these people come here? Why didn't he feel it at all? Is it genjutsu? He looked towards Akaban warily. Don't get me wrong, Zack little brother, I have been drawing here all this time. Akaban pointed to the painting in front of him. At this time, the painting has been completed. On Hidden Sand Village, a silhouette with a gourd on its back stands on the sand. Sorry. He apologized insincerely, and then clenched his hand tightly, observing the genin who was reading the comics around him. Of the many sand ninjas, only some of them are addicted to it. A small group took a few glances, and then put down the comics, obviously not interested in it. As soon as Zack saw it he sighed in relief, but before he could relax, he saw those groups of ninja glanced around suspiciously for a while and then suddenly gathered behind Jiraiya and Shinyai. Oh! This kind of painting is really... Those who were going to leave quickly surrounded Jiraiya and Shinyai, hearing the noise out of curiosity. And it didn't take long for Jiraiya to have more and more people around. As far as painting skills are concerned, Shinyai is naturally better. However, Jiraiya is far better than him in this aspect. This is also a comic. The ninjas were stunned, completely unaware that there is such a thing in the world. Of course, they are unrecognized art. Jiraiya glanced at Akaban and said in an admiring tone, fortunately, there are still people who are walking forward with heavy burdens on their back to explore this future direction. So that's how it is, this is really an incredible art. Said one of the sand ninjas. He wanted to watch more of it but he felt very embarrassed doing it. With so many ninjas gathered around them, looking at this kind of thing made him feel a little shy. Well, since you guys are the first batch of readers, this picture is given away to the one who wants it. Jiraiya is very clever. He took off the painted illustration and raised his hand while shaking it, and asked, so who wants it? I. Give me. The guy who was shy and embarrassed just a moment ago quickly raised his hand very quickly with other ninjas around him. Zack out of curiosity also got close and peeked at the painting, and when he saw it his face flushed. Whether it's from anger or embarrassment was unknown. He took a deep breath and then yelled, "Stop!" In an instant, the audience was silent. All Hidden Sand Village genin, go back to training, immediately, now. Zack said solemnly. Everyone was silent for a moment. Originally, after a period of training, there will be a lot of rest time, now the rest time is gone. However, Zack's position made them compelled. They bowed slightly and then left silently, but they took the painting away. Other genin who haven't read the comic has no choice but to go back to the training ground. And Akaban-san, I need to report this to Lord Kazekage. Zack continued. Of course, we are guests, you have the final say. Akaban shrugged since he didn't care. Anyway, the seeds have been planted, even if they are driven away, it doesn't matter. Many thanks. Please allow me to bring one. Zack shook the comic book in his hand that he grabbed, then bowed and apologized, and left with body flicker jutsu. Jiraiya was stunned for a moment. He still didn't understand what was going on, but he had a big heart, so even if he had no audience he still continued to paint. Shinyai meditated for a while, and asked with some worry, will they ban it? I don't know. Akaban shook his head. This is also why he wants Jiraiya to come. But if they really want to ban it, he can only use the method of smuggling in. One Piece comic. Shaman, who was studying and perfecting the magnet-style technique, was really taken aback. Yes, teacher, the books they bring are not useful knowledge at all, but entertainment books. Zack said and was a little worried. Knowledge can make people powerful, but this kind of recreational book will only corrupt people's fighting spirit. Shaman opened the comic and began to read it. After a few seconds, Zack asked nervously, "Teacher, what do you think?" "Not bad, the story is quite interesting," Shaman answered after reading the first chapter. "That's it. Don't you think it is an alternative poison?" Zack said. Second Kazekage glanced at him, then put down the comic and the research scroll in his hand. He sat in a chair and said, "Zack, it's okay, the war is over." When Zack heard his teacher, he was stunned for a moment, then his voice rang in anger. "The current hidden sand village is far from the rest, so how can we enjoy this kind of thing? Zack, you have to understand that the policy during the war period may not be applicable during the period of peace," Shaman said with a serious expression while shaking his head. "If we do our best to develop combat readiness and strength, what's the point of spending a lot of resources on the Chunin exams?" Zack wanted to say something but didn't refute it in the end. He just said unwillingly, "So are we just letting them spread like it's nothing?" "Of course not." Shaman got up and walked out. He has already decided in his mind, and he was just not satisfied with Zack's performance before. Since the first Kazekage, Zack has been cultivated as a successor since he was young. However, until now, he still has not been able to become the perfect Kazekage he wants. "Akaban, here they come." Kurama Shiniwan felt their aura and immediately poked Akaban solemnly. "It doesn't matter, even if it is banned, we will not lose much," Akaban indifferently said while shaking his head. Even if they were banned, they paid only a few comics, and Akaban had already received nearly 100 points, so he really didn't care much. Really? Kurama Shiniwan didn't understand it, but he didn't ask, lest Kazekage hear anything. In less than half a minute, the second Kazekage arrived. As soon as he appeared, under his strong aura, everyone immediately stopped working, including the child outside. "I greet Lord Kazekage." Kurama Shiniwan bowed and saluted. Akaban and the others would naturally not neglect the etiquette. "You don't need to be polite. I heard from Zack about your book and realized that I misunderstood your book. So I hereby apologize seriously." Shaman bowed slightly after speaking. No air of being a Kazekage was seen on him. After that, Zack did not understand. "Why do you want this?" "Presumably, Zack's little brother has already mentioned it to you. In fact, ours is not the knowledge books you are looking forward to, but just some comics," Akaban said and picked up the said comic. "Of course, I already knew." Shaman nodded his head. He found a stool and sat down, with an expression of kindness on his face, but due to his aggressive nature with his scary face, the kind expression he wanted to portray was not achieved like Sarutobi Hiruzen. "Then about our purpose, you must understand." Akaban laughed. Judging from the expressions and actions of Shaman, the other side does not intend to prohibit it. And this is enough. I read the first chapter, and it's great for leisure time, but Hidden Sand Village does not have that many people, so I don't think the caravan needs to come," Shaman said. "Do you mean that you will send someone to our shop?" Akaban understands what he means. "You sell this one piece in Land of Rivers, and we can go there and buy it," Shaman said with his eyes slightly narrowed. This saves us a lot of expenses, but I hope the comic you bought will only be circulated in Hidden Sand Village. Akaban said knowingly. Sure enough, the rebel leader from before is a spy from Hidden Sand Village. Shaman must have received the news and collected considerable information, guessing that the spy he sent was likely killed by the ninja of Konoha. But there is definitely no evidence, otherwise, it would have been exchanged for more benefits. Now Hidden Sand Village does not care about the rebel spy they sent, and Akaban also didn't care how many comics they buy and whether they will print it after buying. The two sides turn a blind eye on each other doing, so everything is fine. Happy cooperation. Shaman nodded, he got up and left. Zack froze for a moment, and then followed Shaman like a puppy. And when they reach Kazekij's office building, he can't help asking, "Teacher, what should we do next?" "What do you think?" Shaman, each minding their own business, opened the door and casually asked. Zack began to think. As a Kazekij successor, he was quite qualified. It's just that his thinking is a bit radical. But now that the stone has been set, his thinking should also change. After thinking for a while, Zack answered, "Use the plot of the ocean in the comic to inspire the people's fighting intent." "What else?" "Make the comic as a reward, and the winner can be rewarded," Zack continued. When he said this, his eyes became brighter. "Anything else? And, by the way, we can also print some and sell them to other places in Land of Wind at a lower price." Shaman was taken aback when he heard the third statement and looked at him strangely. Zack was a little uncomfortable seeing his teacher's gaze, and after thinking about it, he realized his stupidity. The Land of Wind is so poor, so how can an ordinary person buy it? "What you said is right, but only those are not enough," Shaman said, and after a while, he continued, "I will put some comics on the first floor, so the villagers and ninjas can read it for free." "If you do that, teacher, then what reason does the rest of the people work hard for if others can read it for free?" Zack asked in doubt, since he doesn't quite understand it. Hearing it, Shaman's expression didn't change, since he already expected it, and indifferently answered, "If there is a first volume, there must be a second volume. I will put the first volume in my building, and use the second volume as the reward, and so on." "So that's how it is. How I didn't expect it," Zack muttered to himself. Compared with Shaman, he felt that he was really too bad. "Go and prepare the plan." Shaman waved his hand to let Zack leave. _ The Kazekij really has a vision for not banning the book. Maybe this uncle's art will bloom in the Land of Wind, Jiraiya said hopefully. "What are you happy about? In the first place, do you even have a manuscript for sale in the Land of Rivers?" Shinyai asked, destroying ruthlessly his fantasy. "Huh?" Jiraiya was stunned for a moment and then reacted as if that was the case. Seeing his face, Shinyai didn't mind him, since he finally knew why Akaban asked him to come and asked for help. He looked at the painting in his hand, and after pondering for a moment, he tore down the painting in half, since it's unbearable to look at. Akaban called them over as a gimmick. There is actually no place for them to help. Now that the deal is concluded, he doesn't need to draw this without his conscience. As for Jiraiya, he is an idiot, don't care. Shinyai held his chin in silence and thought. He decided to change the content and draw what he wanted. Jiraiya, who got enlightened, got close to Akaban and asked the important thing to become a successful aero mangaka. "Akaban, can I print some and sell it to Land of Wind?" Jiraiya leaned in and asked in a low voice. Akaban considered his words and said after a while, "It is possible, but you have to get approval from the third Hokage for you to get it printed. Teacher. Jiraiya touched his head. He didn't understand some of the essential words Akaban said that made him confused. Shinyai and Kurama Shiniwan did not understand if this kind of comics was sent to the third Hokage. Aren't they just asking for a beating? You can think of it as the proof of your comics gaining approval from the third Hokage that will make it easy for other people to be impressed. Akaban smiled and gave Jiraiya the last push for him to get baited. It makes sense. Hearing it, Jiraiya nodded. His eyes are full of fighting spirit. In order to impress the teacher, and for art. Although Shinyai and Kurama Shinyuan didn't believe what Akaban said, Jiraiya on the other hand really believed it and started painting seriously. He spent the whole morning working hard just to paint his first R18 comics. Akaban, what about your comics? Shinyai glanced around. Since cooperation was reached, setting up the stall became meaningless for them. Let's donate it. Akaban stretched out. Anyway, he didn't care much about money, so he donated it. Although the hidden sand is so pretentious, he should still do good deeds. Donate. Kurama Shiniwan was stunned. Although he didn't understand what was going on, he felt that Akaban and the Kazekage had some kind of tacit understanding. With Sand Ninja Asylum, there must be no problem with Land of Rivers. It seems that they do not need to worry about the trade routes for their business. He secretly thought in his heart. About the business, we can talk about it later, so Uncle Shiniwan will stay here for a while to distribute the comics, while we go back first to train for the upcoming exam. Akaban said and got up since he did not intend to stay here in this place any longer. The main purpose of their visit this time is the Chunin exams. Although he doesn't like it, but for Jiraiya and Shinyai, it is an excellent opportunity to prove their ability. For example, Jiraiya. Until now, there are many doubts in the village about him becoming the third Hokage disciple. Only by showing one's own value can these rumors be eliminated. Go back so soon. Jiraiya didn't expect this at all and asked incredulously. Before, he wanted to be acknowledged by the third Hokage. But after Orochimaru cheated on him, he didn't care about these things anymore. It's okay to go back. Anyway, I don't have much inspiration. Shinyai said, then he quickly put away the drawing board ready to follow Akaban. He paints purely because he wants to see if he can improve his genjutsu if he learns from Akaban. However, the improvement effect of this method has proved to be almost nothing, but his drawing skills have grown to the point of perfection, and now even the drawing board can be easily used without looking. If this continues, as long as there is a good story, he can completely draw comics himself. Okay, you can go back and leave it to me here. Kurama Shinyuan said in understanding. They came here to deal with chores, so he didn't complain about it since it's their job. Akaban nodded. Before leaving the place, his eyes swept around the ninjas on the training ground. In the training ground, not only the sand ninjas were there, but also many from small ninja village that comes to participate in the exam are also there. Everyone is there not only to train, but also to observe their opponents, and collect information, which resulted in the training ground becoming an information ground. Forget it, anyway the Chunin exams is near. Akaban thought inwardly, not bothering to collect information about their enemy. The three teams that come from Konoha are not that weak anyway, that even the weakest looking Jiraiya and Shinyuhai can handle them in a battle, so he didn't worry about it anymore. Back to the residence. Everyone needs to train. Jiraiya, you go to Mount Myobaku to train, remember to come back within 3 days. When they arrived at their residence, no one was there, so Akaban thought about it and asked Jiraiya to go to Mount Myoboku directly to train. If the third Hokage can't train him, then no need to ask Hatake Sagaki. Since the Toad Sage is his best mentor. Ah, but I don't have Uncle Sagakipo. Jiraiya hesitated. Don't worry, I will talk to him about it. Akaban answered before he could finish his word and waved his hand. Okay. Hearing Akaban's assurance, Jiraiya nodded his head and quickly went to Mount Myoboku without any intention of staying. As for you, Shin. Akaban paused. Please teach me genjutsu, Akaban-sensei. Shinyai lowered his head, without any pretentious, even if they are on the same peers. Except for Uchiha, who has great attainment for genjutsu, Akaban is definitely at the top when using genjutsu. Sensei, please let me learn from you. There are still 3 days before the Chunin exams. Although Akaban is afraid of trouble, cultivating Shinyai is indeed a good seed no matter what. More than that, if he helps Shinyai in his training, Hatake Sagaki wouldn't have any excuse to torture him in training. A great plan. One day later. Teacher, this is the plan I just made. Please check it out. Zack handed over the plan. Shaman took a look, and then nodded and said, your plan is okay, but I recently learned that Konoha held a kind of comic exhibition in the Land of Fire. Exhibition. Zack's face is blank. What new vocabulary is this? Shaman handed over the information collected by Anbu, and after a moment of contemplation, he said, it should be an entertaining show and party based on comic. It seems to be so, but they also invited daimyo. Is the insignificant comic so attractive? Zack said incredulously. As for his discipline, Shaman just glanced at him. This kid said he was not interested in comics, but Anbu's ninja said otherwise. Of course. The youngster loves to save their face, he understands it better since he also goes through it, but the atmosphere felt silent for a while. Zack also felt that it was not right. After being silent for a while, he said embarrassingly, then you mean, we also hold one? Let's wait, see and investigate first, but I'm even more curious about the comparison between the two comics. Shaman leaned on his chair and said. He just wanted to check it at first and let Anbu investigate to realize that the comics have been popular in Konoha for so long. And not only that, but he also found that there is unrest in the Uzumaki country which he didn't expect. There's another set of comics. Isn't it just one piece? Zack's voice instantly rose a bit, and his eyes seemed to glow. But soon, he felt something was wrong and he seemed a little too excited. Shaman gave him a cold look, and after a few seconds he said, don't care about it, now the most important thing is the Chunin exams. Yes. Zack smiled. Konoha's ninjas have been abnormal since yesterday. Shaman threw a piece of paper over, on it is where he wrote the Konoha ninjas movements that day. Zack took a look after taking it and saw that what was written was so strange that it made him frown and asked in doubt. If they are all inside their residence and have not been out since the afternoon, how can this be special training? We also didn't know how or what training they are doing, so you will use the comic as a reason and go to them to inquire and see what is going on. Shaman lightly said. The dormant enemy is the most terrifying. In their opinion, the Konoha group is in this state. Yes, please rest assured. Zack immediately put at the back of his head the question of what other kinds of comics Konoha has and focused on this matter. Sufficient restraint is one of his strengths. In addition, your own strength should also be improved. Shaman said after thinking for a while and handed over another scroll, which recorded some of his research in the past few days. This is some of my recent improvements to the magnet style technique, you can infer to it. Thank you, teacher. Zack immediately took it and bowed gratefully. For Hidden Sand Village, keep it up, Zack. The tone of Shaman has several points of heaviness. The first Chunin exams were held on their land of wind again. If they were swept at the door of their house, they would really lose face. If it weren't for Chunin exams, Zack would have been promoted to Special Jonin as early as the end of the war. Looking at the information he got from the Land of Rivers, he felt that Zack might not be strong enough, especially if he fought the one named Kurama Akaban, since even he could not see through that brat. Again. Hatake Sagaki said indifferently. Wait a minute. Akaban said while rubbing his temple. The continued use of genjutsu made him a little tired. But he didn't say wait because he was exhausted, but mainly because of an unexpected guest. Hatake Sagaki was slightly startled, and then he also sensed the arrival of someone from the Sand Village. Okay, everyone can rest. Sagaki waved his hand, beckoning everyone to go back to rest and recharge. Akaban lay down on the bench waiting for Zack to arrive while also sighing. He admitted that he underestimated Hatake Sagaki. As the Hatake clan patriarch, he is quite comprehensive in training and guidance. Even if Akaban claims to help Shinyai to train in the way of genjutsu, he still cannot escape his evil clutches. Yes, the real illusory domain. For more than a day, basically, as long as he can still do it, he must repeatedly use the real illusory domain, in the name of challenging his limit. And he has to admit that due to his training, the way he uses his chakra becomes more delicate. Dong 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 tilde. A knock on the door sounded and Akaban snapped his fingers. However, this is not Konoha. His family clan's caravan goes out to set up a stall and distribute the comics while the rest is resting due to fatigue from training. So only Akaban and Hatake Sagaki are the only ones who can come downstairs to meet the guest. The knock on the door continued, and Akaban remembered the incident he experienced with Tsunade. When he was about to stand up to open the door, he saw Hatake Sagaki had already reached the door. Sorry, Mr. Hatake, didn't expect you to come in person. Zack politely apologized, when he saw Hatake Sagaki opening the door, which he didn't expect. It's nothing, everyone is tired, that's why. After Hatake Sagaki opened the door, he turned back and sat down. Zack took a look inside and found that Akaban and Hatake Sagaki were the only two on the first floor. What about other people? It's Zack, little brother. I'm sorry, I just fell asleep and didn't hear it at all. Akaban said while looking sleepy. Pretending to be exhausted was one of his strong points that anyone who saw him will really believe him. So although he just finished his training and looked exhausted, the truth is he can still release his real illusory domain on 8 people 2 or 3 times at the same time. It's okay, it seems that you have experienced a tough special training, said Zack as he glanced at the venue, very puzzled. There is no trace of training or activity at all. Yes, but I just want to sleep every day, Akaban retorted. Then he glanced at Zack and pointed his finger to a seat too lazy to say anything. Zack calmed down and did not pay too much attention to his surroundings, lest they become suspicious of him. He sat down, thought for a moment, and said, to promote comics, teacher decided to set up a comic book shelf on the first floor of the Keizukage building so that everyone can read it. So teacher sent me over to ask about your opinion. It is indeed a good proposal. If you don't dislike it, I am willing to donate all the comics I brought this time to you. Akaban of course did not mind. From the time he set off to the land of wind, he didn't plan to earn money out of these stubborn geezer pockets. Then on behalf of my teacher, thank you. Zack was stunned. What good is it for him to take 100 comics when it only adds up to 10,000 Rio? He just said those words out of courtesy. It's nothing, the friendship between wind and fire lasts forever. Giving a few comic books is nothing. Akaban said with a bright smile on his face. Seeing it, Zack couldn't help but choke for a while. He wanted to refute Akaban but couldn't for many reasons. Taking a few deep breaths made him calm once again, and after getting back his bearing, he finally asked what's on his mind. Then I have a personal question. The comics are what I brought into the land of wind. So if you have any questions just ask. Akaban said amicably. I heard that you held a comic exhibition in the land of fire, can you describe it to me? Zack asked while continuing to observe. However, no matter how he observed the room, he couldn't find the other people from Konoha, which made him perplexed and thought. What the hell is happening to these people? Hatake Sagaki, who was observing him, smiled coldly. He then got up from his seat and walked upstairs. Upstairs. Sure enough, they were doing a secret training which they didn't want them to know, so they hid in the house. Zack thought after he saw Hatake Sagaki walking upstairs. His mind was getting restless that even everyone who stayed upstairs could feel it, not to mention Akaban and Hatake Sagaki, who were at his side. Akaban waited for his gaze to move back from Hatake Sagaki to him, and then slightly smiled and said, Comic exhibition is actually a gathering of comics lover and hobbyists who want to share their comics related work, and they can also role-play the characters in the comics and also make a show base on them. So that's how it is, role-playing, performing shows, well, it's not bad. Zack said. But although that's what he said, deep inside he was screaming secret training. Zack shook his head. He put the secret training on the back of his head first, since he can't receive an answer he wants to hear anyway. But before he could ask anything, Akaban didn't give him a chance to and said. But if you are worried about not having enough knowledge for doing it, then you don't have to worry no more, since I have a talented individual on my side who is proficient in the development process and I can lend him to you if you want. Proficient and talented. Zack is dumbfounded. He doesn't know how to react when he hears it. Yes, it's the white-haired ninja named Jiraiya. Akaban laughed while saying it, then after a while, he became serious and continued, don't look at him like that. In fact, when it comes to comics, he is a very reliable person. White-haired ninja. Zack thought carefully and finally remembered who Jiraiya was. Is that guy really reliable? That guy can draw comics that are not ordinary, so if they hand over the comic exhibition to him, heaven knows what kind of persecution the Hidden Sand Village will receive. When Zack thought of this, he trembled with fear, and the corner of his mouth twitched, and immediately said, there is no such thing as a comic exhibition in the village for the time being. And if we are going to implement it, then we will contact you when the time comes. Is that so? Although it's a pity we can't do anything about it, so is there anything else? Akaban asked while yawning as if to remind Zack of something. There is nothing else, I'm sorry to disturb you. Zack answered, then got up, then turned and left. He knew that his plot was seen through, and it was impossible to inquire about any news. Continuing to stay here will only waste time and energy. And it is better to give up early and go back to do your own thing. Let's continue. As soon as Zack left, the voice of Hatake Sagaki was heard from upstairs, and he was not given a chance to rest at all. Let's start fast, I am impatient to protect Hidden Leaf Village from the invaders. Jiraiya is the first to run out, and the others follow closely from behind. Soon all of them come out from the door and gather on the first floor. Akaban, hearing it, sneered and said, "Protect the Hidden Leaf Village. No need to do it since I just got a new idea, and you will definitely be satisfied with it." What idea? As soon as Murasaki asked, he felt a trance. Genjutsu. Has it already been activated? He was secretly surprised. Akaban's genjutsu is getting harder and harder to guard against. After being in a trance, he opened his eyes again and found himself in the endless desert. In more than a day, they have experienced this situation several times, and they are not surprised when they see it. The game is called Survival on the Desert. Food, weapons, and information are all in this desert. Go look for it. Only the one who can find it can survive. Same as the sound in the virtual illusory domain before. And the only difference was the theme from the previous one. In the previous illusion, they were trying to protect Konoha from invaders. But now, the theme was survival, survival of the fittest. Murasaki looked around for a while trying to confirm his position. And only after looking for a while, he noticed that the place where he currently is the road they passed by from the Land of Rivers to Hidden Sand Village. After knowing where he is, he suddenly thought about what he heard earlier. Food and weapons are understandable. But what does information mean? He pondered secretly, but he did not relax his vigilance because their mission was to survive, so he didn't know when an enemy would appear. Go towards Hidden Sand Village first, maybe there are any clues. It didn't take long for Murasaki to make a decision in his heart. Scenarios like this happen at the same time everywhere inside the illusory domain. So that's how it is. The person who gets the information first can hold the first initiative. Orochimaru laughed after hearing it. He used a summoning jutsu and summoned a bunch of little snakes in the desert to search for the clue. Finding information first is definitely the first thing to do since we don't know what will happen inside the illusory domain. Everyone makes a quick decision, even Jiraiya, who is usually the most unreliable, also quickly judges his position, and then heads to Hidden Sand Village. They don't know what is inside the illusory domain, but according to the prompts, the most important thing is undoubtedly information. At the same time, information gathering is also the most important part of war. What is it this time? Hatake Sagaki asked as he was a little curious. Even though the other side is Sakumo's father and Jounin who is leading the team this time, Akaban still chooses to remain silent. Be curious for life. He cursed in his heart. Desert illusory domain. This is the transformation of illusory domain that Akaban has been thinking about since entering the Land of Wind. But before, he had never been able to control it perfectly. But after repeatedly using his illusory domain for many times in just a day, he gradually felt he could do it. But of course, with his personality, he wouldn't do it since it will be troublesome just from maintaining the domain. But who knows that these guys are still obsessed with protecting the Hidden Leaf Village that leaves him no choice but to use it on them. I guess, it's a desert. Hatake Sagaki guessed as he sat down and closed his eyes as if he didn't care what was in the illusory domain. But if he really doesn't care, he won't bother guessing right. Akaban continued to remain silent while retorting inwardly, but it didn't take long for him to become serious and focus on the illusory domain. Such a large illusory domain has a considerable burden on his spiritual energy. More than that, with his ability to watch illusory domain from outside, it feels like he was watching a live broadcast. In terms of information gathering, summoning jutsu is simply cheating. He thought when he saw countless snakes roaming the desert. Although they are not adapted to the desert climate, as the summoned beast, they still do their duty to complete their mission dutifully. And it didn't take long for the summoned snakes to discover a clue. After informing their summoner, Orochimaru quickly arrived at the place. A comic. Orochimaru said in doubt when he saw it. He carefully looked at its cover for hidden information but didn't find anything. When he thought it was a miss, the comic suddenly opened due to wind that made him think otherwise. Since he thought it was just a normal comic, he didn't bother looking at the content since he thought it was the same as the original but didn't expect something was written on it. In order to nurture strong ninjas, Hidden Sand Village puts ninjas into the desert and at the same time puts poison mist in the desert. And only by getting the antidote and reaching the Hidden Sand Village can they survive. A short message, but the above content is enough for Orochimaru to understand everything. Poison, antidote, and survival. Not all of them can survive this battle, and these comic fragments are the most important information in this desert. Interesting. Thinking about it, he couldn't help laugh grimly. Fighting with his companions is an unprecedented experience for himself that made him excited just thinking about it. At other places. Just like Orochimaru, Sakumo also summoned his nin dog named Kenma to search for information in his surroundings. Although Kenma is still small, his nose is already quite sensitive, that it already smelled something after being summoned. And after some exploration they finally found something. A kunai. Although it doesn't feel as good as my short knife, it's fine for now since I can use it. Sakumo said as he held the kunai feeling more confident with a weapon in his hand. With weapons, his fighting strength can be improved a lot than when he was bare hands. Kenma, find other people first. He took the kunai, and planned to meet his companion first. Woof tilde. Kenma barked in understanding and walked in a certain direction with his small calf. Good job. Seeing it, Sakumo gave a compliment and followed fast. One kid, one small dog, searching along the desert. After a while, they finally met the person Kenma smelled. Shinosuke. Sakumo was surprised, and then asked strangely while looking at his weapon, "What's in your hand?" "Well, it looks like a pot." Shinosuke noticed the kunai in his hand, then looked at the flat-bottomed pot that looked like a frying pan in his hand, and suddenly feel ashamed. How can this be called weapon? He thought. Maybe Sun Ninja's pot is like this. It's actually not bad, you can use it for defense and offense at the same time, which is quite useful, Sakumo said. Whether it is sarcasm or not, no one knows. That's what I also think. Shinosuke answered as he put the frying pan around his waist and sighed helplessly. Let's find other people first. Sakumo said as he stifled his smile and let Kenma continue to lead the way. But their search stops when an unexpected thing happens. Woo 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 tilde tilde. Kenma, who was leading the way, suddenly collapsed on the sand while giving a pitiful groan. It tried to support itself but failed after 2 times of trying. What's the situation? Shinosuke was stunned witnessing it and asked in a baffled tone. Sakumo squatted down to check the situation of Kenma. And he has to say that Akaban's illusory domain is very real. Even though Kenma is only a phantom image, but the situation is very realistic that you can definitely think of it as real. After inspecting Kenma, and out of his understanding of his companion, he instantly understood what was going on. He was poisoned. What? Poison. Did it accidentally eat poison? Shinosuke's complexion changed and looked around vigilantly. It is impossible to be eaten by mistake. Animals are more sensitive than humans, so the poison was probably a type of poison we can't feel. Sakumo explained lengthy, which is quite rare for him. He didn't lack information, so when he just thought about it for a moment and sorted out the whole sequence of events, he immediately knows its source. You mean, the air is poisonous? Shinosuke sucks in a cold breath. Desert, poison, and some puppet, it is fully in line with Sand Ninja's combat style. As he was thinking of it, he was suddenly taken back when he thought of something. Puppet. No, something's wrong. He quickly pressed his hand on the sand and poured his chakra on it, and immediately felt the enemies under the sand hiding and shouted. There are enemies. Needless to say, I also know. Sakumo answered as he kicked Shinosuke away, and then made his hand full of lightning. Chidori flow. Under the lightning, several puppets that arise around him were directly bombarded into residues. This jutsu. No time to ask, run. Sakumo yelled while panting. The more he uses chakra, the more he can feel the existence of poison in the air. If they don't run, they will die from the poison in the air. I understand. Shinosuke got up, pulled Sakumo on, and then used hand sealed with both hands. Earth style. But before he could use his jutsu, Sakumo yelled at him that made him stop. Idiot, underground is also poisonous, let's run. With no other choice, Shinosuke and Sakumo run in the direction unknown. And the journey of let's run from the poison, begin. Dash. Akaban, who was watching them, sneered, witnessing their decision. This is an illusory domain, not reality, so how can the earth also be poisonous? But he knows that their decision is also correct if they were in real-life situations. But differentiating between reality and fiction is their only flaw. However, it was Tsunade that surprised him the most. Others were collecting information and looking for weapons. But this lassie is good without them. She doesn't need weapons since she didn't use a weapon, and with the medical skills she has learned, she immediately felt that the air was poisonous. But the most important thing is, the poison that could make other people die if they absorb more does not affect her at all. While other people were running like a dog looking for the hidden sand village and antidote, she on the other hand was walking like she was in her garden strolling. Senju's physique is simply a cheat. Akaban complains from the bottom of his heart. He swept down the illusory domain watching the others. He saw almost everyone noticed the problem of poison from the air. While trying to escape, they collected clues that might exist around them. However, depending on their physique, the tragedy they encountered is also different. Such as Moonlight Night Dance. She was frail and sickly in the first place, so although she was able to escape from the puppet, but it was useless. The poison in the air does not care whether you escape or not. Under the erosion of poison, their physical strength and chakra are depleted very quickly, plus the puppet they will face that made it much faster. Moonlight Night Dance has been killed, death due to poison. A voice resounded through illusory domain. In an instant, everyone was stunned when they hear it. Then after a moment of silence, everyone laughed in unison. Dying under the poison air is really a tragedy. Someone is out, so even if I die, I won't be at the bottom. Shinya laughed, and then his expression stiffened when he thought it was his teammates that were out. After all, the easiest way to win this game is being with your teammates since there are only 3 antidotes. He knows it because it's his only and most important harvest so far. After sighing and folding the piece of paper on his hand that contains the information, Shinyai was about to leave to find the said antidote or his remaining teammate Shinosuke. But before he can take a step, he suddenly heard a voice. "It seems that you also got the information, Shin-san." This voice, it's Orochimaru. Shinyai looked up and saw a silhouette standing proudly on a sandy mountain not far away from him. This is illusory domain. The theme is survival and escape. Not only do we have to get the antidote, but we also have to escape to Hidden Sand Village to survive. Orochimaru said while walking in his direction. What do you mean by this? Shinyai asked warily. Information exchange, I want to know what is recorded in the paper in your hand. Orochimaru answer. So simple. Shinyai has a serious expression. He doesn't know Orochimaru too well, because this guy is exuding a cold temperament, so he doesn't like to interact with him very much. But in terms of strength, he has to admit that he is not an opponent. What good is it for me to kill you? You don't have the antidote anyway, so I just want to get the information in your hands, not your life. Orochimaru shrugged and said lightly, but after he finished his words Shinyai quickly attacked him. Demonic illusion, tree binding death. Choosing to fight, Shinyai directly uses illusion that took effect in an instant, but the next second, he saw Orochimaru in front of him turned into a snake. A clone. No, this guy is just trying to attract my attention. Shinyai immediately became alert and quickly jumped forward. But he was a step slower. And his foot got caught by Orochimaru who was underneath. Earth-style, headhunter jutsu. With the use of the jutsu, Shinyai's head was the only thing that can be seen on the surface while his body was inside the earth. And after a few seconds, Orochimaru appeared in front of him with the paper in his hand and said while licking his lips. I said I only need the information, so why bother fighting me? But since I already got the thing I want, I will leave you here since if I kill you directly my name will be known. So good luck. Ah, damn you Orochimaru. Shinyai has been killed, death due to poison. Someone was killed by poison again. Tsunade hearing it was stunned, and she looked around suspiciously. Although the air is really poisonous, is it really that lethal? She mumbled. Ha ha ha. So stupid to be killed by poison and they dare to laugh at me. Jiraiya. Tsunade followed the sound and saw a fool laughing proudly. Ah, airport. Jiraiya was slightly startled, he didn't expect to meet Tsunade. Tsunade was about to scold him a few words, but suddenly. No, the poison toxicity is increasing. Her complexion changed when she felt the sudden change of the poison in the air, and she immediately started running, ignoring Jiraiya. What? The poison has become stronger. Jiraiya froze for a while hearing her, but obviously, he didn't feel that much. But out of trust in Tsunade, he then immediately followed Tsunade's pace. At the same time, the other participants also sensed the crisis. Weapons. Food. Information. What is that? Run away first. All of them didn't think anything else aside from running. Hateful, I wanted to search for more notes, but now. Murasaki complained while running, holding the notes tightly. The page he got records that, every once in a while, the toxicity will increase in scope. I need to meet the others first, maybe they also have information. Ziziao scratched his head in annoyance and thought of a feasible plan. With the current information, he doesn't know how to solve the dilemma at all, so he has to run away first. The 6 surviving people set off from various places and ran in the direction of Hidden Sand Village. Underscore. Hateful. 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 Xinyue sat up while cursing with an urge to kill. Moonlight, who was lying weakly on the chair and glanced at Shin when she saw his movement. Another one. Hatake Sagaki said, looking at them playfully. What's the matter, brother, can't you run anymore? Moonlight said jokingly. I was cheated by that guy Orochimaru, that guy is so hateful. Xinyue loudly roared, and then sat down weakly. What? Moonlight was stunned hearing it and thought, what the hell is going on inside? Forget it, since it's not me who died early. Xinyue said as he sat down, reluctantly recounting his own experience. Orochimaru did not kill him. But being pulled into the sand was definitely not a good experience, and when he broke free from his body confinement, what welcomed him next was a bunch of puppets rushing on him. Although the puppet is very dull and cannot take his life, unfortunately, Xinyue Genjutsu is also ineffective against puppet. He fought until he escaped from the puppet enforcement, but his leg was injured from the battle, so the tragedy of what happened to Moonlight was repeated. It's really that guy's style. Moonlight whispered, hearing his story. Absolutely calm, sensible and decisive, and a genius candidate for command, that's who Orochimaru is. So this game is a test to collect information. Hatake Sagaki mumbled while looking thoughtful. Orochimaru, who has 2 pieces of information in his hand, undoubtedly has the chance to win the game. Unfortunately, he cannot see the current situation. He sighed slightly. Well, since you are so anxious, I will let you take a look at what's happening inside the domain. Akaban said as he rubbed the temple of his forehead. Then he once again mobilized the chakra within his body and wrapped Hatake Sagaki, Xinyue, and Moonlight Girl into it. Then in the next second all 3 of them become unconscious. Inside the different illusory domain that Akaban created. Hatake Sagaki was the first who opened his eyes, but he only saw darkness in his surroundings. What's the situation? The voice of Moonlight Night Dance sounded on the side, and she continued after seeing something unusual in place. There seems to be a large square in front of us. Ka. With a sound, a light beam was suddenly projected onto the square things that made it lighten up. After that, everyone saw a picture of desert on it moving. I see, Akaban turned the memory of what he saw into illusory domain for us to watch. Xinyue also studied Genjutsu and immediately knew what was going on. Watch carefully. Seeing it, Hatake Sagaki said coldly to the 2 that made them immediately become serious. 3 people looked towards the square things that projected what's happening on the desert illusory domain, with their viewpoint being bird's eye. More than that, the positions of all 6 people are marked, and some of them have different symbols from other people. There is a series of small tips below. Purple symbol has special information. Red symbol kills the most. Blue symbol, the best equipment. The 3 of them looked at the screen, and there were 3 people with the purple symbol: Orochimaru, Murasaki, and Sakumo. In addition, Orochimaru's head is also marked with a blue symbol. Truly worthy of this guy. Although Orochimaru buried his body in the desert, Xinyue still admires Orochimaru. His position seems to be closer to Shinosuke and Sakumo. Moonlight said. According to Orochimaru's style, if he knows that Sakumo and Murasaki have information on them, he will definitely get it from them without hesitation. Akaban, help me lock to Sakumo's position. Hatake Sagaki said lightly. Ting, tilde. As the sound sounded, the scene also changed from earlier. More than that, the viewpoint also moves this time. This is. Shinyai was surprised, but Moonlight, who guessed it, exclaimed, "This is what Sakumo saw." UN. Hatake Sagaki nodded, and his eyes completely focused on what Sakumo was seeing. And after a few seconds, the corner of his mouth raised slightly, since he already guessed what's about to happen next. "What's the matter?" Shinyai asked curiously. "Orochimaru is near," Moonlight answered as she saw something lurking on Sakumo's point of view. She is also an assassin type like Sakumo, so she didn't think that Sakumo couldn't catch the traces she saw in his sight. "This snake." "Orochimaru," Sakumo whispered. Due to their previous game where they were guarding the Hidden Leaf village against invaders, everyone basically understands each other ninjutsu. So the snakes that appeared in the desert inside the illusory domain are undoubtedly what Orochimaru doing. "What's wrong?" Shinosuke asked while looking at his surroundings vigilantly while moving forward. He didn't dare to be careless. "I don't know, but I feel something is wrong." Sakumo's voice came from the screen. "An enemy in disguise." Shinosuke pondered for a moment, then muttered seriously. "From the beginning to the present, the only enemy they face is puppets that keep appearing. So an unknown enemy made him vigilant." "I'm not sure, but be careful." The two communicated in a low voice and approached cautiously. Their combat ability is very strong, and there are two of them, so as long as they are vigilant, there is nothing to worry about. But what they saw still made them tense, seeing how a snake suddenly talked. "It's me, Orochimaru." The little snake twisted for a while and turned into the human form of Orochimaru. Only he has this kind of ability. "So, do you have anything to do with us?" Sakumo asked while not lowering his vigilance. "Nothing, I just want to exchange information from you guys," Orochimaru said, and then he continued. "The information I collected said that Hidden Sand Village is conducting a test to develop a super ninja as an experiment. And the only way to survive was to get an antidote. So what's your point?" Sakumo asked. "Why don't we work together to find the antidote?" answered Orochimaru. He knows very well that Sakumo and Shinosuke are not easy to deal with, especially if there are two of them. In one-on-one he has an odds of success, but two-on-one. And even if they fought each other, the results will definitely be ugly with how poisonous the place is. So even if he won the battle against the two, even with the best equipment, the poison effect will surely affect him, that leaves him to die due to it, which he didn't want to happen. Sakumo froze for a moment when he heard it. He glanced at the manga page in his hand and said, "My record, Hidden Sand Village invested in the construction of a laboratory, and there are laboratory coordinates on it. The antidote, the laboratory, so that's how it is, so this page is the key." Shinosuke mumbled as his eyes shined brightly. If before they didn't understand why the laboratory and its coordinates were in it. But it turned out to be the key information. "It seems I was lucky, and I found the key all at once." Orochimaru laughed. He didn't ask where the coordinates were, but his real body came out from behind his clone. Sakumo slightly frowned seeing that. "Let's go, let's find the antidote. If we get the antidote, we will be safe," Shinosuke said with a fist. UN. Sakumo looked towards Orochimaru. "The meaning goes without saying." "Then, happy cooperation." Orochimaru bowed and followed the pace of the two. In the final shot, three walked together, seemingly walking towards the laboratory in harmony. These two guys are going to be cheated to death by Orochimaru. This guy knows the truth, so obviously he knows something which the other two didn't. the two that got eliminated sighed at the same time seeing it. Their feeling towards Orochimaru was both hate and admiration. They admire Orochimaru's shrewdness for making the two cooperate with him while not losing anything and instead gain from it. And hate him since they know that the two will be cheated by Orochimaru for sure. That's not necessarily true. Hatake Sagaki said while shaking his head. It is not that he blindly trusts his son, but the information prompt is an obvious clue they have. If Sakumo and Shinosuke are sufficiently vigilant, they will soon understand that something is wrong. And he can only see it if these two have this kind of vigilance. After all, Orochimaru is a companion. I also agree with Uncle Hatake. Since the moment they met Orochimaru to the present, Sakumo has been holding his kunai, obviously ready for something unexpected. After walking for a while, Sakumo stopped. Shinosuke, who was at his side, was slightly startled, then he saw the corner of Sakumo's mouth moving and followed what was implied. He stopped and turned around and looked at Orochimaru, who was following them. "What's wrong?" Orochimaru asked. "The toxicity has diminished, so it's time to clear up some doubt," Sakumo said with a serious expression, and after a while, he continued, "Orochimaru, you met Shin, right? Apart from Akaban, you are the one I fear the most, because you have a terrifying intuition of a wolf, and sure enough," Orochimaru said while sighing. There was no direct acknowledgement, but the answer was already quite obvious. "I'm not surprised that Moonlight was poisoned to death, but for Shin to be poisoned was absolutely impossible to happen," Sakumo said while clenching his kunai. Shinosuke also took out his ridiculous frying pan, ready to fight. Everyone is a teammate, so he naturally knows a lot about them, so he didn't react at first, but the more he thinks of it, the more suspicious Orochimaru becomes to him, which leads to the current situation. "As expected of Hatake Sagaki-san's son," Orochimaru approvingly said while shaking his head. "You start with Shin because he has obtained some important information, right?" Sakumo asked. "He knows Orochimaru. This guy is calm and realistic, and will never do anything without ample benefits. Shin Yui being targeted by Orochimaru only means that he has information. Only 3 participants can make it to the end in this game," Orochimaru said with a subtle smile, and tried to entice them. "How about working together to become those 3? Although it's just a game, it's my teammate who died, I'm afraid it won't happen," Shinosuke said indifferently. "It seems that it cannot be resolved peacefully, then." Orochimaru grinned and used a hand seal that in just a second he already finished. Bang! Summoning Jutsu. A big snake appeared. Although it's not Manda, it's still strong. Earth style, Great Swamp. Shinosuke, not wasting a second, also used a jutsu the moment he saw Orochimaru making a hand seal. The moment the big snake appeared, a deep swamp also materialized under it that in the blink of an eye, half of the snake body fell into the swamp. The serpent struggles, but it is futile since the more it struggles the deeper its body sank deeper. When it stopped struggling, it saw Shinosuke jumping on its head with a frying pan in his hand, planning to knock the top of its head with it. What a ridiculous weapon! Orochimaru thought as his mouth raised with a hint of mockery and ignored Shinosuke while looking at Sakumo's position in the dark, waiting for the opportunity to strike. However, bang! A crisp and loud sound was heard, and its destructive power was beyond what everyone imagined. Because when the frying pan hit the summoned snake, its body sank into the swamp without resistance. What, a chakra weapon? Orochimaru incredulously mumbled, with his eyes wide open while staring at the weapon that's not so attractive but is actually such a powerful weapon. Too crazy. In fact, Shinosuke also froze for a moment. Since getting a frying pan, he used it for the very first time against the enemy. Be careful! Sakumo suddenly yelled. Shinosuke also reacted and saw a few puppets appearing in the sand dunes not far away from them. These puppets opened their mouths and sprayed out a dozen poisonous needles in his direction. Shinosuke didn't panic, he infused his chakra on the frying pan and it glowed yellowish. Tuk tuk tilde. Under the superb speed, all the poisonous needles flying in were blocked by the bottom of the pot. It can be offensive and defensive, this thing is surprisingly easy to use. Shinosuke muttered to himself. Although Orochimaru was a little distracted by the strange weapon, when he saw puppets appearing, he didn't hesitate to use Earth Style and fled from the battle scenes. On the other side, Sakumo quickly solved puppet. Inside the viewing illusory domain. Akaban, this guy can really do anything in this illusory. Also, is it normal for a puppet to be so strong? Moonlight said in admiration and shock. Stop talking, look at the screen. Shinyui urged while pointing at the screen. At this time, the big screen becomes an Earth map again and the screen becomes a bird's eye view. So it's not difficult to notice Orochimaru's position, who is supposed to flee but actually has not left yet. Having a bird's eye view made them see where everyone's location is, like Tsunade and Jiraiya who were together we're reaching Sakumo and Shinosuke's location. And Murasaki who was near where the laboratory is located. Hatake Sagaki glanced at everyone's location and said with an expression of approval on his face while laying on his back. Really worthy of being the third Hokage Sama disciples. From the very beginning, Orochimaru made two preparations before approaching the two. The first one was, following Sakumo and Shinosuke if they have the information, and the second was summoning a clone to find Tsunade and Jiraiya. So even if something unexpected happens, his clone who has met his two teammates can come and support him, forming a 3vs2 situation. What a cunning guy! Moonlight Night Dance exclaimed with a worried expression. From what they can see on the map, Orochimaru's strategy is undoubtedly very correct. So even if Sakumo and Shinosuke get the antidote, they can be tracked by Orochimaru, and they may end up as the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the Oriole behind. Seeing their performance, I feel relieved. Akaban, let me go out. Hatake Sagaki beckoned and said to Akaban, who controls illusory domain. Well, are you not going to watch it? Akaban was a little surprised. The climax was about to happen and Hatake Sagaki didn't want to watch it. There is nothing to watch, as long as Tsunade and Jiraiya meet Orochimaru. Even if Murasaki also finds clues and comes to the laboratory, they are not the opponent of Orochimaru 3 team. Hatake Sagaki said and continued, after all, this guy has collected so many weapons, and he hasn't used it until now. Shinyui was about to open his mouth to defend Sakumo's side, but thinking about it and witnessing it with his own eyes he sighs since it's really the truth. As expected of Uncle Hatake, you're really amazing. Akaban said and then laughed while changing the screen view location. What they saw on the screen was only darkness, and no one was on the screen this time. Then the screen changed again and again, showing the interior of the room, and although it's dark, the layout can still be discerned by those who were watching it. This is the laboratory. I put a lot of weapons and equipment in it, as well as augmented medicine. Akaban said while laughing wickedly and continued, besides, this environment is the most suitable for Sakumo to play. Sakumo's ability is most suitable for an assassination operation in this terrain. Orochimaru has summoned Beast. Hatake Sagaki said as he is not optimistic about Sakumo's team success. The moment Orochimaru summons his massive snakes, even in this dark, Sakumo and Shinosuke still have trouble hiding. It seems someone has arrived. Two silhouettes appeared on the screen, but because the screen was too dim, the three who were watching could not recognize who it was. But it didn't take long for them to recognize the two. After the two silhouettes approached, it is not difficult to distinguish the shape of kunai which only Sakumo has. This is the laboratory. Sakumo looked around for a while, then glanced behind him again. He knew that Orochimaru was following them, but chasing him away was just a useless attempt since it is only a snake clone. The only way is to find the antidote first. With medicine, Orochimaru has only two options: either attack or give up. You can go ahead, I will guard the door, do you go in to find the antidote? Shinosuke said in a low voice. There may be more than one way to the laboratory, but they only know this one, including Orochimaru. So as long as he guards the door, Orochimaru cannot pass. And the more time they delay, the higher the chance of finding the antidote. Okay. Sakumo believed in Shinosuke, so he agreed without the slightest hesitation and went inside the laboratory. The sight is dim, but it is not difficult for a ninja to see what's inside clearly. Orochimaru, come out, even if you use Earth-style jutsu you can't make it pass through me. Shinosuke holding his frying pan turned around and indifferently said while looking at where he sensed some chakra fluctuation. He said that not out of gibberish, but because Earth-style is his most confident ninjutsu. It seems that battle is unavoidable, but unfortunately I haven't played enough of this game. So I can only defeat you. Orochimaru said as he licked the corner of his mouth. Sarutabi Shinosuke, let me see how strong teacher's child is. Orochimaru thought excitedly. Without talking much nonsense, Shinosuke quickly released ninjutsu with both hands. Earth-style, Earth-stone wall. The stone wall emerged out of thin air, blocking the only passage in the laboratory, isolating Orochimaru from the outside. Shinosuke is very clear that his goal is not to defeat Orochimaru but to block the door so that outsiders cannot enter, giving Sakumo enough time to find the antidote. On defense, Earth-style is really annoying. Orochimaru's voice came from outside the door, and then boom! With a loud sound, a hole with the shape of a fist appeared on the stone wall. A fist gauntlet. What a very terrifying weapon. Shinosuke is secretly shocked. Even his earth-stone wall can't defend against it, showing its formidable strike power. It seems that it is also a weapon from illusory domain. I won't let you pass. Sakumo, who was inside the lab, heard the movement behind and knew that Orochimaru had chosen to attack. But although he knew it, he didn't look back because he believes in Shinosuke, but instead focused on searching for something that might be beneficial for them. Like pills he found lying on the ground. He also found some weapons and ninja tools while trying to find the antidote. But it didn't take long for him to be vigilant when he heard footsteps coming towards his direction. Who? However, before the owner of the footsteps answered, a silhouette rolled out of the front passage. And behind him, 10 puppets followed closely. It's you, Murasaki! Sakumo exclaimed. Don't stop, run, these 10 puppets are too strong. They are the first Kazekage puppet collections, so they are stronger than the one outside that we fought, so be careful. Murasaki said as he held a sword in his hand, and he was wearing a weird full set of armor that made him fully armed. You lead them away so I can find an antidote. Sakumo said as he already secretly probes and observes the puppets while running, and using the shuriken he picked up on the hallway on them, he concluded that these puppets are invincible. More than that, he felt that the consumption of his chakra and physical strength increased again. The antidote. I got a bottle. Murasaki said, shaking his hand and throwing the antidote to Sakumo. So generous. Sakumo said in surprise as he caught the antidote thrown at him. Does this guy know there are only 3 of these? He thought. By the way, the poison mist will increase every 10 minutes. And according to my hypothesis, it may be accompanied by a shrinkage of the area that can make the poison more lethal. That's why we can't fight. And since you're the fastest, leave these puppets to me and find the rest. Murasaki explained the information he got while at the same time provoking the 10 puppets. However, when he was talking and while at the same time distracting the puppets, 2 of the puppets merge and become a shuriken, and suddenly fly towards him with a terrifying momentum, and behind them, the other puppets also follow in an imposing manner. Seeing it, Murasaki didn't panic, and without hesitation ran without looking back. However, the 2 puppets that become shuriken although miss their target didn't lose their momentum as they suddenly made turns as if someone was manipulating them and once again on Murasaki trail. Although Murasaki is fast, he can't escape the homing attack of the shuriken, and within a second, the big shuriken made of the puppet's body directly hit Murasaki at the center of his back, ready to split him into 2. However, what the audience expected to happen didn't happen. Because they saw Murasaki's body unscathed. What? Is he so resistant to beating? Moonlight Night Dance exclaimed and was completely dumbfounded witnessing it with her own eyes. It's because of his full body armor. Hatake Sagaki said as he noticed the armor on Murasaki's back being broken. It seems that the equipment in the illusory domain is very difficult to deal with, but unfortunately I only got a piece of paper, and it was robbed by Orochimaru. Shinyai said, feeling a bit bitter about his experience. It seems Shinosuke will suffer. Hatake Sagaki mumbled out loud. Witnessing the effect of the armor, he is no longer optimistic about Shinosuke. At first, he thought that the most important things in the game were weapons, food, and information. But now, it seems that it's not only those 3, but everything is very important in the game. Illusory domains, weapons and equipment can make ninja stronger. The full body armor of Murasaki was not a blue symbol on the map, but it was still very strong armor. So how can Orochimaru's weapon that was a blue symbol, which is the best equipment in the game, not be strong? So him predicting Shinosuke results, there is no need to explain. Because, a few seconds later, a voice sounded on the screen, Sarutobi Shinosuke has been killed, reason of death, killed by Orochimaru. And after the voice faded, another pitiful person suddenly appeared in the viewing room. Shinosuke glanced at Shinyai, and then at Moonlight Night Dance, who was eliminated first, and sighed heavily. The first 3 that got eliminated are his team. How frustrating. And without waiting for him to whine, his 2 teammates bombarded him with questions. Why did you die? What? Because the view was not on Shinosuke. Everyone did not know how Shinosuke died, and it made their curiosity to its peak seeing how Shinosuke died, especially the 2. But Hatake Sagaki didn't inquire like the 2, instead, he asked indifferently like he already knew the answer to his question. Did Orochimaru resist your strongest ninjutsu? Yes, that guy completely resisted my Earth Dragon bullet. Shinosuke answered as he sighed somewhat helplessly. Hearing his voice filled with helplessness, the 2 didn't ask more. Earth-style ninjutsu focuses more on defensive ability. And attack ninjutsu is a very rare thing in those types, and Earth Dragon Bullet is one of those attack ninjutsu. So with Orochimaru's scheming mind, he must really take the opportunity to one-hit kill him during that time when he uses an attack ninjutsu. Double your training in the afternoon. Hatake Sagaki said lightly. Yes. The three of them said in unison while bowing their heads, since who told them to be eliminated first? At this time, the screen changed once again. Orochimaru crawled out of the dirt with great effort, and then sat on the ground while breathing heavily. Damn, that was close. If not for my armor, instead of Shinosuke, it will be me who will die. Orochimaru said while breathing heavily, a little scared from earlier experience. The move Shinosuke utilizes, named Earth Dragon Bullet, has very formidable power, that even the armor Akaban created cannot resist its damage perfectly that leads to his current state. So battle earlier was really a close call for him. Orochimaru, why did you kill Shinosuke? At this time, Tsunade arrived. When she heard the announcement, she was stunned, and she didn't understand why Orochimaru did that. Jiraiya followed her, but the way he looked was more miserable than Orochimaru who fought a battle, so obviously, he was dragged all the way here without his consent. Orochimaru didn't immediately answer Tsunade's question. He glances at Jiraiya, then at Tsunade who looks energetic and is suddenly lost in thought. He collects equipment, food, and information on his own painstakingly. While these two people have no sense of crisis at all. Hey, help, help, I'm going to die, kill me already airport, don't torture me. Jiraiya exclaimed. Eat it. Orochimaru took out a bottle and poured a pill from it. Tsunade took it and sniffed. A food. She mumbled then handed it over and gave it to Jiraiya. After a while, after taking the pill, Jiraiya recovered a bit, at least he could move a little now, unlike how he couldn't move earlier and was lying on the ground after Tsunade tossed him. What the hell is going on, why did you kill Shinosuke? Tsunade asked seriously. You came all the way and didn't find anything. Orochimaru asked while holding his head, having a headache. What kind of teammates these two are? Are they all going to rely on him? Because the poison is not fatal, I don't care about it. Tsunade answered honestly. Then, the two looked towards Jiraiya. Seeing the two looking at him, Jiraiya sat up and took a pondering position, but before he could answer, Orochimaru beat him on it. Forget it, you can't count on an idiot. Orochimaru took out 2 pieces of paper and handed it to Tsunade after mocking Jiraiya, there must be important information over there. So it's difficult to understand what is there now. But for now, that's it. Tsunade was suddenly embarrassed after reading 2 pages of manga. Jiraiya, ignoring Orochimaru's mocking, pondered for a while and suddenly said after remembering something, speaking of which. When I met Murasaki, he didn't have any weapons so I gave him the sword I picked on the sand since he is a companion and I didn't need it in the first place. Fool! Orochimaru exclaimed with his eyes wide open. Having seen Gauntlet and Frying Pan's ability, he was pretty sure that the weapons in the illusory domain were not as weak as they thought. So sword weapons are absolutely very strong. Well, it's too late to regret, we can just beat them. Tsunade said that with full confidence, she then stretched out her hand and spread it out towards Orochimaru. Orochimaru who saw that froze for a moment. He feels that it is a kind of déjà vu where parents give pocket money to their child. Holding his head from pain due to a headache, he still rummaged through his body to find it with his other hand. I got it. I don't have anything suitable for you on me. But I have these shoes. If you wear this, you can run faster. No. Tsunade exclaimed with a look of disgust, and Orochimaru had worn those shoes. so how could she still want them? But for Jiraiya, who doesn't have any piece of equipment, it's suitable for him. Okay, let's go in and kill them. Tsunade said as she clenched her hand and bumped it into each other, then rushed first. Be careful of their armor, those kinds of armor can withstand fairly high formidable power. Orochimaru shouted, but whether Tsunade heard him or not was unknown. There are only 2 of them, so why can't we charge together? Are you afraid we will lose? Jiraiya asked with his face swollen. Orochimaru thought for a while and felt that there was something out of place. He always feels something is wrong. In the viewing room, Hatake Sagaki, who saw that, also became thoughtful. Regardless of the equipment, route, or the range of the poison mist, everything was orchestrated by someone. Akaban, you're not being fair. Not only did Hatake Sagaki notice it, but the others also gradually realized something was wrong. Just like where the 10 strong puppets come from, was also where the bottle of antidotes was located, and was also coincidentally obtained by Murasaki, that led to him being attacked by them and then also coincidentally met Sakumo. Is there really such a coincidence? HMPH, this will be more fun, and I am their teammate anyway. Akaban said as he laughed. This piece of illusory domain was created by him. So taking care of his teammates is easy. More on that. Actually, he didn't take special care of them. He just let the poison circle be refreshed in a favorable place for Sakumo and Murasaki. Like the first bottle of antidote, it was completely found by Murasaki by mistake and had nothing to do with him. Yes, the fate circle. After the 2 found the antidote to converge, they left from the other channel, which happened to be the limit range after the poison circle contracted. If they take a few steps, they can enter the less toxic circle. But Orochimaru and his 2 teammates are not the same as the 2. And sooner or later, they will have no other choice but to pick on who is going to drink the 3rd antidote, while the other 2 will die from poison or for other reason. So that's it, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And also tell me your recommendation in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.